You're getting a notification pop up that says this meeting is going live, you're being recorded. You know, it's like, okay.
Yeah. Okay, we're live.
Okay, good evening. This is the October 20th Finance and Facilities Committee meeting. It's about 6:35 p.m. and we'll start out with introductions. I guess we'll start out with people online and then we'll do people in the room. So the first person I see from my point of view, Jim, tell us about yourself.
I'm Jim Wadig. I'm the project manager for Greenburgh Schools for BBS Architects. Should be here.
Very good. Zach?
I'm Zachary Baker. I'm doing tech support from BOCES.
Thank you. Sarah?
Hi, I'm Sarah Lazari. I'm a parent of an ECP student and a Highview student.
Dave?
Hi, Dave Long, father of two in the district.
Amy?
Hi, I'm Amy Huang, parent of two in Woodlands.
Katie?
Hi, I'm Katie McGee. I'm a parent of an 8th grader at Woodlands.
Gabriella?
Hi, everyone. Good evening. I'm Gabriella, mom of 3 boys, one at Highview, one at Jackson, and a 3-year-old, soon to be in the district.
Wow. Julie?
Good evening. I'm Julia Long. I have a 6th grader at Bailey, and I am also a board trustee.
Very good. Anyone online that I missed? Okay, so starting in the middle of the room, Ashley.
Okay, I'm off camera, but I'm here. Ashley Pineda, board trustee and father of 2 in the district.
Steve Morton, vice president of the PTA for Woodland Middle High, got 2 boys here.
Chris Vallon, board trustee, parent of 2 at the high school.
John Kane, a representative of Con Edison Solutions, here to introduce the energy performance contract we're proposing for the district.
Fred Siba, director of engineering for BBS Architects and Engineers.
David Warner, proud parent of a graduate from with a master's degree. I came here when she was 5. I'm on the Board of Education and I'm the chair of this committee.
Dennis Pugliese, director of facilities.
Megan Hack, parent of 2 in the district.
And
Elizabeth Sandona, assistant to Dennis Police.
very good. Anybody I missed?
So we have one in the waiting room.
Okay.
Thanks.
Hello, Jessica. Can you hear me?
Yes, hello, David. Hi, everybody.
Introduce yourself.
Hi, sorry I'm a few minutes late. Just finishing dinner. Jessica Muldoon. I'm a parent of a ECP student and 2nd grader. Hi, everybody.
Very good. So the next item on our agenda is to go over the, well, before I do that, could you switch us to the agenda just for a minute?
Yeah. Oh, you want me to screen share it?
Just to give you an overview of the evening, right? So we have, we're going to go through our minutes. Then we're going to have our sort of the main feature, which is going to be the energy performance contract review. We have our Con Ed representatives here. We'll do the finance piece very briefly because Lisa Raymond is not with us at the moment. She couldn't make it. Then could you scroll down a little bit? Then we get to item number 5. Scroll down there. Then the area that's the 5 years facilities plan. You have a draft. If you have your Google Drive, in which there were some updates and BBS will kind of lead us through that a little bit. And then down to item 6, the building conditions survey is a thing that's ongoing, and we'll probably go over that in detail in a future meeting when we get a little closer to the deadlines. Then we'll talk a little bit about the R.J. Bailey Auditorium, perhaps, and then we'll go through our major facilities projects and then on to the minor projects. And Dennis Pugliese will lead us through the minor projects, everything that happens day to day. And then scroll to the end of this, and we have a series of pictures that I want to just briefly show. Just scroll until you see a picture. Okay, there we go. And then we had a bit of a problem. We were replacing the high view roof as part of our phase 1 project, and it rained and there was a lot of wind in the middle of that. So there were some problems there so there was a lot of leakage. And then scroll to the next page. And then over the weekend, we cleaned things up and things began to get better, and then scroll a little next page. And by about Tuesday, things were mostly in decent shape. And we'll talk about, not perfect, but mostly in decent shape. And we'll talk about that in a little while. And then scroll a little further. And then next page. And then we have some masonry work at the mansion, and that project is starting to reach fruition too. And then a couple of next page. And then we'll have some stuff, some information on the battery energy storage system location, which is part of the energy performance contract. So we may come back to these pictures for future reference, but I wanted you to know they were here. So now with that, you take us to the meeting minutes. Okay, so everyone take a look at the minutes. Thank you, Elizabeth Sedona, for your very thorough job in together a series of minutes. And if you're wondering whether that's in the agenda, it is not. So we're gonna have to look on the screen. Those of you with a hard copy, we're gonna have to look on the screen and see what we've got here. So the last meeting was on September 14th. See if you attended, if your name is there and spelled correctly, and then start to scroll down. Okay, I was reelected as the chair. We went over our charges, or we started to look at our existing charges, and then we said, well, the 5-year plan needs to kick in and then we'll come back and update our charges once we have goals at a district that we can draft off of. We figured out what our meeting dates would be for the year, which are pretty much on Thursdays and pretty much monthly. We talked a little bit about the requirements of the 5-year facilities plan. Scroll down. Right. We recommended that the administration send a letter to Regeneron requesting equipment donations. Dennis, did anything?
Yes, my office reached out to them, and we had some contact with them. They didn't believe that they had anything at the moment, and they were going to check into it and get back to us.
Okay.
A couple of contacts there.
Okay, so we made the attempt. Good. Welcome, Tracy.
I'm gonna speak out a little early, so I don't want to disturb it.
Okay, so sit where you want. Tracy Mayer is our, and this is just the agenda. It's not all the other supporting documents. It's just the agenda.
Okay, great.
can
Thank
sign
you
it
so
here.
much.
Full president. Okay, we talked about committee membership. We've since passed a resolution at the board level allowing people to become committee members. So we have a healthy contingency of people who can vote now for this year. Scrolled on down. Okay, adopted some minutes. Went through a whole series of pictures from the facilities tour that the board conducts before the school opens each year. Hey. And Dr. Iverson, our superintendent, has just joined us.
Hello, everyone. Good to see you.
Scroll down. Okay, and then we talked in some depth and detail about the various pieces, various items that were that we're taking care of. Keep going, keep going. Building by building, right? So you're going through the tour now and looking at what happened and who hosted the tour. Then stop. Scroll back in a little bit. We want to see that the text that's in black. Other way. There we go. And our second recommendation was that the superintendent of schools send a letter to the Greenburgh Planning Board for additional shrubs or other coverage between the car wash and RJ Bailey. So RJ Bailey, if you are coming out of the on your way out of the parking lot as you circle the building, you will note that there are a number of bushes that have been planted in accordance with the plan that was submitted to the town of Greenburgh, and the bushes have grown, but they're not enough to make the car wash be anything less than highly visible. And so we need to, we recommended that we do something about that. We carried this on to the Board of Education, and they agreed that we should go ahead and contact the town and try and see if we could request that something further be done above and beyond what was in the original approved application. And Dennis, have we any results on that?
Yeah, we reached out to the community of planner Duquesne.
Gary Duquesne.
And that's I don't believe I heard back yet, but that was just recently.
Yeah.
Okay, so they'll get back to us, and there's probably a procedure you have to go through. All right, so then scroll a little further. So then on through Leah Jackson and then Highview. And that completes the facilities tour. There's a little bit of additional information on the community garden across from ECP and the business about we're paying the water bill. So basically, we thought about whether we need to do anything about that, and we wanted to go back and find out how expensive the water bill is. Do we know anything about that yet?
We weren't able to ascertain
what it's not. You can't split out
the numbers would be.
Okay. Then all right. So scroll on. We adopted the report. Then we talked about various projects. The Woodlands gym floor was updated over the course of the summer. I think there's still an issue with the additional volleyball net, and
the additional sleeves are scheduled to be installed in the second week in November. We had to get a date where there's nobody using the gym for the full day.
and so then
When there's no game.
the November vote got in the way and all that. Okay.
Correct.
Well, that's where we're at. Okay. Then we talked about Raymond, our assistant superintendent for business, talked about the funds that we have, the American Rescue Plan funding, and that $1.6 million for ventilation that's sitting there, and we have to figure out, how we're able to use that. We talked about the audit committee a little bit, and I think we'll go over that again tonight. Scroll on. The facilities funds update, there are several facilities funds, and those are the numbers which I reported to the Board of Education. Obviously, the fire hydrants have taken up much of the capital, have taken up a certain amount of money, and above that, let's see. The phase one construction money has been spent to a certain extent. Now, when I talked to Lisa a couple of days ago, she said that pretty much financially, we're pretty much where we were at that point, and things really haven't changed yet. I know we've signed some contracts. I assume that the money actually starts to change hands as the construction projects are completed. So we're not quite there yet. Okay, scroll on. Right. All right, so that's more of the same, the repair reserve. And Lisa recommends that excess funds after our 21-22 audit is complete be placed in the capital reserve fund, which would also help with a bond. And I was hoping, I'm not sure where we are in the audit process. Chris, do you know anything?
We're trying to get a date together.
Okay. So stay tuned. All right, so scroll on down. The building conditions survey, it's the same stuff we talked about. We have to update the building conditions survey in 2022, even though we came up with a baseline in 2020, because that's how the state wants to run things. They want to stagger submissions. So it's sort of luck of the draw where we got put in the queue. Hello, good evening, everybody. Hey. Are you Cal? Yes, sorry I'm late. From Con Edison Solutions, very good. So, Cal, we are, this is our agenda. We did the introductions. We're going through the minutes of the previous meeting, and then and we have your presentation here that you can run through and tell us about the energy performance contract. Sure. So just take a minute, breathe, and sign in, and we will finish this piece of business. Sure. Okay. Okay, so we went through the status of other major facilities projects. We were waiting on the fire hydrant and water line project. I believe they were waiting for the survey work to happen at one point, and now we're just waiting for the report. Scroll down. Phase 1, which of course has the piece with the high view roof that we talked about, and also has a lot of ventilation work in it. The energy performance contract, we had a preliminary version of your presentation. I think you've done a little bit more with the presentation since then. So we'll look at the new version tonight, but $20.9 million project potentially. And then, and so that we kind of talked in general about what was in that and looked through it. Pending legislation could change what we're allowed, how big the project could get. And of course, the legislation is pending. So it's good to know, but we're going forward with a project right now, assuming that we have the 18-year payback period maximum. Outstanding issues, whether public vote is required. We've since learned that public vote for the scale of what we want is in fact required. So we'll go over that in a little bit. We talked about the solar carport and the battery energy storage system, and how that would play out with the neighbors and the people who have to vote for the proposition. Then we made another recommendation. The committee recommends we communicate with the public regarding the current state of our proposed energy performance contract. And Lisa Raymond was supposed to do, I think, frequently asked questions based upon that, and she's not here. Do you know?
Yeah, she has begun that. She's sort of researching the type how to formulate the questions, and so she has begun looking around to get a model of what those questions should look like, so that we have very good, clear questions, a good 10 to 15, not many, that really hit the salient pieces of information we want to communicate. So she has begun looking at that.
Okay, so that's in process.
It's in process, yes.
Okay, good. And then the Woodlands Middle High School security vestibule, which I think we were waiting on parts and still are, but that was made into one project with the mansion roof and masonry, and we started the masonry piece since this was published. Let's see, smaller projects. Bus garage, we talked about the need for at least a pilot program to try and get an electric vehicle in here and a charging station, and we were looking for funding sources for that. Discussed meetings between, getting generators as backup, right. New buses were expected but didn't arrive, so rusted hoods and existing buses were painted. So the whole fleet, nobody has a rusty hood anymore. Discuss the main reason for the electric buses is the fuel cost savings, and that's something that keeps giving back. And finally, we had some information on district bond vote history. We'll probably want to look at that again in the near future, because we didn't get to go over it a lot, but the information was provided, and Ivy Kraus has even more information in terms of voter turnout that she's going to be providing for us in an upcoming meeting. So that's everything that was in the last meeting. We went over a lot of stuff. Yes, Chris.
I move that we approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Minutes adopted. Okay, so over the past close to a year or so, we have been working on an energy performance contract. We went through a bid process, and the winners turned out to be Con Ed Solutions. And now we're in the portion of that process in which we finalize things and figure out exactly what the scope of the we have the scope of the project overall, but exactly what the details are. And it's time to now go public and tell people about what the proposal is. And to do that, we've invited Vidala Kalyana and John Kane of Con Ed Solutions. And they're going to present to us at a high level their proposal for an energy performance contract. So we have the public can see this now. Zach?
Yeah, they should be.
All right, take it away, Cal.
Okay, thank you everybody for the opportunity. Yeah, this energy performance contract is basically a vehicle and a mechanism for districts, school districts to implement energy conservation measures and some capital improvement measures that otherwise would have to be done through a capital project. The good thing is that this has energy savings there, paying for the cost of it. So there's a net neutral to the district. The recovery term for the cost investment of the project is at this point 18 years. That's legislation set by the state. And like it was shown in the previous slide, there is some pending legislation to change that, increase that to 25 years, so districts can get more capital and energy work done. But at this point, the legislation is still 18 years, so that's what we are going with. And we have we've been doing some studies. We've been on the sites multiple times with mechanical and electrical contractors and pretty much everybody, lighting contractors, everyone. Dennis has been very helpful in accommodating that and arranging for us to go to all the buildings. We looked at the high school, all the elementary schools, that are all part of a contract, and we kind of put together a list of all these measures. All of them have, I kind of put some costs together for this that we developed. But all these measures, as you can see, have energy savings component to it. I can go through that, but the total project cost right now is we're looking at about the first capital cost of about somewhere between $20 and $21 million, and about $3.5 million in public grant, the rebate money, state rebate money, and through the passage of the Inflation Reduction Act, the nonprofit entities can also take advantage of the investment tax credit as a check. So that's been accounted for in here. As you can see, there is a solar carport and a battery component that qualifies for that under that act. And so we have taken advantage of that, bringing your costs, almost like 50% down. So when the incentives are all recovered, your net out of pocket would be in the order of about $16 to $17 million. And the project has the potential to save your overall energy costs by about $1 million a year, $1 million a year. So in other words, every year the project doesn't happen, it's like $1 million on the table. So that's an important point to note. I can start to go through them quickly, the list of measures, and if anybody has any questions while I'm discussing, please feel free to pose a question. Yes.
David, just as an organizing thing, can we inform the people attending virtually to speak up instead of chatting? So we're not, or how do you want to manage that? Somebody has something in the chat.
We have something in the chat already. Do you want to bring that up so we can see it, so we don't ignore something?
That was from.
I think it's muted. Okay.
That was from
not an issue. So yes, please speak up if you wish to say something, so because we're busy concentrating hard on what's appearing on this screen.
We've gone through these already. This was all part of their initial proposal. It was part of the past presentation that we talked about at the last facilities committee meeting. So we've been through these already now, so if I want to go through them quickly.
Sure. Well, no, remember the rest of the public may not have looked at that.
Right.
And so this is an introduction for not just the committee, but anybody else who happens to tune in on Zoom if we're going to end up with propositions. So go at it.
Okay. There are about, can you, minimize that? Yes. So right now we're looking at about 16 total measures, some of them consolidated for ease of discussion. So the top one obviously is lighting change out. So all the lighting across the district, we got counts of every single light bulb in every space. It's going to be converted to the state-of-the-art LED technology with light sensors in the rooms that automatically turn lights off when people are not there. And so it is a big energy saver. Obviously, the thing has a quick payback and recovery of investment. The next project is solar. We got solar at 2 locations. One is for the high school next to the football ground. There is this empty lot. So that we don't have to cut any trees. We were told that we cannot touch trees, we cannot cut trees, so we stayed away from that. That is clean lot already. So our plan is to put carports because we were originally looking at a ground mount system, but we were told people park cars there, so we cannot take the ground away. So we changed our scope to installing a carport system, which is slightly pricey, but thanks to the IRA, we are able to reduce the cost of that. So the carport system would be basically like a big canopy system with solar panels on the top that generate energy, and that there's also a big 700 kilowatt Tesla battery pack as a part of the deal. So we're going to put that, all the electrical switchgear and whatnot, and then the battery will be charged from the solar. So you're not actually charging it from the grid; you charge it from the solar itself, and the battery is there. And the critical the 3 summer months, June, July, August, September, actually half of June, half of September, the battery gets to discharge into the utility grid, the Con Edison utility grid, and that has a huge economic benefit, which is obviously paying for a lot of this investment along with the solar, and it's all clean energy. So it not only helps the district, but it helps the overall utility grid and the residents around it too. So they get to be part of the whole clean energy program.
You have a picture of this?
We have the picture down the slides.
Are you planning on paving? Say again?
That's item number 14.
That item number 14, I'm just kind of talking about solar together this way. So that's for this high school. And we are also at the same time looking at a project for the high view rooftop solar, because we're told that, and I listened to this a little bit, that you're changing the roof at the high view. So it might be the perfect time to actually add in a solar rooftop there. It's about 115 kilowatts because it has some shades from the trees. So we don't want to cut the trees. So we stayed away from that. And the only location that cannot be impacted by the trees can host about 115 kilowatts, and that feeds directly that building. So that building gets green energy directly. It doesn't go to the utility, it goes to the building, and it gets to, and based on the way the electric rates are going up every month these days, that the system more than pays for itself and spins cash out to pay for some of the expensive measures. So basically, long story short, the solar energy, but both high school as well as the high view, is completely 100% clean green energy. And it not only that it is clean, but it also helps pay for some of the high cost measures. So that's a cash giver, we call it in EPC contracts. And the third measure here is direct digital controls. The district has old, very antiquated, pneumatic-based Barber Coleman system in here. What that is our temperature control system. So when people are not there, the buildings still get heated and waste a lot of energy. So the new digital state-of-the-art control system will basically like your home thermostat. What it does, it just, you get the program from a computer, sitting here, you can schedule and control any building within the district and make sure that buildings are not being overheated or underheated. And you make sure that you are using the energy smartly. So you're not wasting energy on the coldest day because of the lack of controls. So you're bringing it back 21st century. that control system is something that we see as a critical need for the district, and especially with the prices the way they are these days, the return on that investment is pretty quick.
One question, please. Do each of the buildings have generators for emergency power in the case of blackouts?
No.
Okay, so if everything is digital and we have a blackout, what would happen?
The system would still function. I mean, if it is a blackout, electrical blackout, the boilers would unless they are on an emergency power, the boilers would not work. So right now they won't work anyway. But if you want to put emergency just for the boilers for provision of it, then the system will continue to work the way if you're running the building on the heating mode and you lose power, the building will continue to run in the heating mode. Just because it has an electronic smart system on top doesn't shut the system down. It will make sure the system, the functionality will go locally to the building. So even if you lose power across the district, the building will still heat. If you have emergency to run the boilers, because it's gas, right? So it's going to run on gas or oil. And if you lose electric power and if you have emergency power for the boilers will still run and provide heat.
Thank you.
It won't be any different from
how it is now.
The existing conditions, but it can improve if you have emergency power. Okay, the next item on the list is natural gas to the buildings. This is very important to control and mitigate the cost. Right now, all the buildings are oil only, number 2, fuel oil. There is no natural gas except for Bailey. So the project has been looked at in the past, and I don't know, it didn't materialize. I guess the utility did not take that, provide proper direction. So we worked with the utility, our counterpart on the other side, pretty closely. We brought them in here. We had them do some site surveys. Right now, I got the gas plates already put into the system. I'm meeting in the next couple of weeks. I'm going to be meeting the utility guys in here. So we developed a plan and we tested. There is gas at the Highlands by the Pine Street here. High pressure. We need high pressure gas for this building. Highview has gas right up by the Harvey Drive up the Yale Avenue, and the Lee Jackson has gas right by the Saratoga Road. So it looks like for the Highview, one of the questions last time was running the pipe through the Pressler Park. So I spoke with Con Ed and they did actually send me some information. They are looking at upgrading the existing service. They're going to be, that will help you with the project we're talking about. So the existing service there is only for cooking gas, and they want to put a booster in and raise the power up to supply for the boiler. So this way we may not have to run it. They did not finalize or crystallize that option yet, but they're seriously considering not actually have to run through the park because it requires easements and stuff. My backup plan was to go from top of the hill down because the gas is available on the hill as well too, but looks like we may be able to leverage the existing system by upgrading the existing pathway. So that's Highview, but Lee Jackson, they might do the same thing here. You already have cooking gas and it's a medium pressure gas, and they're going to put a booster in to upgrade the existing network so we don't have to go all the way back to Saratoga Road. But this building, they would have to run a new line because the existing line doesn't work. So but it would be, you already have an existing line here that was abandoned like 25 years ago. So, and it did not work and they removed the meter. So we're going to be running a line adjacent to that. And that's all in the works with the utility. So basically that measure will pay for itself within 5 to 6 years, and it will spin so much cash, especially recently because of the price hikes and everything we see. That helps pay for some of the items I'm going to go through now. The air handling units, which is basically like air movement units in the schools that basically move air back and forth from outside inside. They require a lot of work. I don't want to go into mechanicals of that, but they require a lot of work and preventative maintenance and bringing it back to life and extending the life of them. So we have lots of stuff that's changing motors and belts and moving parts and stuff like that, and making sure the coils are clean, so you get clean air around in and out, as well as upgrading the fresh air intakes, because that's critical. As COVID, that has become a big issue in the districts. So we want to make sure that all your fresh air intake grills are to 21st century standard and to the current code. You bring enough air in, and so students have enough fresh air in the buildings. So that's critical, and it's more of meeting the code than energy savings. That measure is expensive, and it doesn't have as much energy savings to it, but it is a critical need measure that we are able to pull under this project because of some of the lighting and solar measures. All right, along with that, we got some old rooftop units in here, which we are looking at replacing just because they have met their life. And the Highview and the Bailey have same thing. They have air handling units, which we are refurbishing those. And then we need new boilers at Highview School. The boilers at Highview School have exceeded their mechanical life, and they are on their last legs. So they'll one day or another, they will have to be replaced. So that's a capital measure. It has some savings, but we are able to pull the cost into this project.
You have a question? You said the boilers have exceeded their life?
At Highview.
Oh, at Highview.
Highview, not here. These are the brand new boilers here in this building. Yeah.
So can I ask the lifespan of the boilers that we tend to buy? Like, you know, at my house, like they will sell you different grades of boilers and it lasts a certain period of time.
Typically, we say there's an average shelf life, they call it, about 25 to 35 years, depending upon the type of boilers you buy. But these days, these boilers, we're looking at HP Smith boilers that are by American, they're American made, good old fashioned boilers that do work. So that's what we're looking at. Okay. The next one is the hot water heaters in the schools. So when we do natural gas projects in these schools, we have to do some kind of an upgrades to the heating system and our hot water system. The state wants that they just remember this project energy savings. They need to show energy savings. We can't just show dollar savings, right? So that's why we change out all these hot water heaters to it. And most of the water heaters are either electric or oil fired. So just for the savings purposes, because we're getting gas in, we're changing them, putting in high efficiency water heaters. Then the measure 10 is network controls, which basically it's another control system that just turns off all the school district's computers and monitors and everything at night when students are not using them. So it's some savings to that. It's mostly software controls that we implement. The unitary HVAC is for the window air conditioners. We were here in summer, and a lot of the schools we went to in the build, the air conditioners were running. And because people were there for a few hours, they leave, people turn it off, but a lot of people did not turn it off. So this will ensure that systems will be turned off, like in my house, when I live, I turn it on. So the air conditioner, mostly air conditioners, is the HVAC unit savings for summer. Then the other stuff is basic housekeeping stuff, the insulation missing on the piping and stuff. So we're going to re-insulate any missing insulation. Steam traps is part of the steam network that just usually every 10, 15 years, if they blow out, you got to replace them. We talked about the solar here. Weatherization is basically insulating the building for winter, just make sure there's no cold drafts coming in, and that's straight savings. And these are older buildings, so that require a lot of leaky buildings, so we're just tightening it up. There are a few compressors in the back that are near their life. It's just you just got to replace them because they're near their life. That's the major project, the $20 to $21 million project. The big thing is that the project gives out $1 million in annual savings, and that's growing actually. That's growing at the rate of the price increases everywhere else, like 6-8% a year these days. So I mean, and especially in New York, I just want to mention the Indian Point going away. The electric prices are going through the. I'm sure you guys are all seeing on your bills. So you being a NYPA customer, the New York Power Authority was $24 a KW, like 6-8 months ago. Now it's about $30 a KW. They're projecting another 15-20% rise in the next year. So electric prices are only going up. So this project only makes more and more sense the quicker you do it. And gas prices are going up too. Oil prices are going up too. So that's all I got to say.
Okay.
I have a few questions. So everything you reviewed sounds really good. All these optimization systems that we're talking about, what's the process going to be for ensuring they're customized for our needs? There's going to be some training process for, for example, the computer network management control sounds great, but most places will patch and reboot their computers in the middle of the night. So if things are off, that's not going to happen. So what will be the process between Con Edison training our local resources on how to customize all these systems so that they work for us?
Right. We have a rigorous training program for measures like that. For solar, they require training. The network management and software systems, there is training. The building management, temperature control systems, there is training. So we bring in the vendors and our training, we got a training team. So we bring them in and then we train your operators based on the different types of measures that we have a rigorous training program as part of the package. Okay. Yes.
I also believe that software has the ability to network software, has the ability to wake the computers up if you're doing some sort of software upgrades and then shut them back down.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that the training does happen so we know how to control that as things change.
We have used a software called Meridian software. They are very familiar. That was specifically developed for school districts and higher ed.
And Cal, we typically tape the training, correct?
Yes,
So
we
that
have taped
if there's
training.
a changeover in employees, obviously you have that, and you can probably should revisit that annually at least, or just do it anyway even for the existing employees. So they remember.
And then my next question is on the energy management system. You likened it to the smart thermostats we have these days at home, right? That kind of figure it out. Some heating systems take a long time. Like for example, I guess my question is, you presumably schedule. Like let's say this building, we know the first person gets here at 7. Presumably there'll be some kind of configuration to tell it, hey, you need to start up at 6 in order for the building to get, that'll all be part of it.
That's part of it. Yes, yes. We've been doing this for forever. So the boilers have a response time. So what I call cold start response time, right? So right now the systems could be running at night just to make sure that buildings don't go down to the temperature, right? So what it does is it takes it down to a set point where it can wake up, and by 6 o'clock in the morning, it's back to 68 degrees, whatever the set point would be. And then it takes it down back at night. And not only that, it is smart, the outside temperature and kind of regulate it. It has resets and stuff like that.
Okay.
So
It's called Optimal Start, that program. And it actually learns the building like a smart thermostat does over a period of time. Based upon outside and indoor air temperatures, it will learn how long it takes that building to come up to temperature. So if you tell them, first people show up at 7 o'clock, I want it to be 70 degrees at 7 o'clock, it will work on inside, outside temperature, its knowledge of the building in order to get the building up to 7 o'clock by occupancy.
Okay, thank you.
And it's not just the boilers, mostly that's where portion of the savings are, large portion of savings are, but it also regulates individual spaces. It's not the whole building is like one big room, right? There are rooms with different usage patterns. So and we can schedule on a room by room, zone by zone basis. So today we have a meeting here, it makes sure the room is comfortable. And if we don't have a meeting, the room doesn't have to be 72 degrees, so that there are different valves and controls and dam systems all over, and the system will make sure that you have enough airflow, you have enough hot water flow to make sure that you're comfortable. And when you're not using the space, it goes to a reset or set point. So that's where most savings come.
So now let me ask you, since, due to global warming, we have more variable weather than we used to.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll run into these things where one day it's 50 degrees and the next day it's 25. And so in the middle of the day, right, so here's this system that's learning what should happen as routine, and then the weather doesn't cooperate with the routine. So does it then adapt to actual conditions, or do you have to override it?
No, it adapts to the actual inside load conditions. So you set a room at a temperature, let's say I need this room at 68 degrees in the morning. It doesn't matter, I mean, it monitors outside temperature and that temperature, that tells how long when the boiler has to start to make sure that you're comfortable here. 50 degree, the boiler doesn't have to start at 4 o'clock in the morning. It starts at 5:30 to make it comfortable at 6 o'clock. If it is 25 degrees the next day, it goes back to bumping up at 3:30 or 4 o'clock to make sure you're comfortable at 6 o'clock in the morning. So nevertheless, you will be comfortable at 6 o'clock in the morning. And that's where the investment goes, that the smart brains into the systems are for that purpose. It responds pretty quickly to your load and requirements and the comforts and the needs for the spaces.
Yeah.
Yes. And it has, like, it's a self-learning, evolving program. So if there is a TMI 20 data that gets and it does all of that good stuff. But at the end of the day, like a thermostat, it cares more about what you need inside than outside.
As opposed to reading the weather report. Okay,
Yes,
got it.
yes. It doesn't go by the weather, it goes by what you need.
By what it
Yeah.
feels.
And the facilities director usually has control over that. And we get to sit down with them to help program the system and set points and all of that stuff. And then you have visibility, different spaces too. If somebody's saying like, oh, room 108 in Highview is not warming up, you know, here sitting like what's going on. And you get alerts and all of that fancy stuff too, you know. So you can get the response time is one of the features of this. You can get to know the problem and can address for it, and then you have alarm schedule, you know, all, so yeah.
Like it ever. Yeah, understood.
All right, so basically.
May I ask a question, please?
Sure.
Was consideration given to putting solar panels at Jackson?
Lee Jackson, we looked at it. No, first of the roofs have to be replaced. We looked at it, the roofs are not, the age of the roof is like nearing 25, 30 years, right? So we can't put in the solar panels on a 30-year-old roof. The reason we chose Highview was because the roof is getting replaced. Otherwise, we would have to absorb the cost of roof replacement, which would kill the project. So if the roofs are getting replaced, you can always add solar panels to the roof.
So we may come, and are we able to come back?
Oh, yeah, we cannot always add at that time.
Like we have other plans in motion, and we'll get to the roofs at various points in time.
I think eventually you would have to, because the state has a goal of doing 100% renewable by 2030 or 34 or something like that. So that is the reason that there is so much impetus behind from the federal government and the state governments in here to put money. And all public projects, all public buildings, the intent is, they want to go 100% of the whole state, but it starts from, from public buildings and schools and stuff. So they're pushing money in. That's why they made this non-profit entities taking advantage of the IRA, because that's otherwise the projects would not work. So
That's my other question. If we're talking about going non-renewables, going to renewable energy only, why are we putting new gas lines everywhere?
Because it's for heating. Electricity is not, electricity is for heating, for construction. To heat, these buildings are not designed to heat with electricity. They are all designed to heat with hot water generated by the boilers downstairs. So you would have to, replace those boilers with electric boilers that would quadruple the cost of heating for the building, no matter if you have solar panels or not. So the sheer amount of heating it requires to heat high school itself, right now you got about, we have to say about 90,000 gallons burned right here in this school. So to replace that with electricity is cost prohibitive. So you don't have enough, you first have you got to upgrade the service for that, because you cannot put enough solar panels to heat the building, because that would, that would have to be massive amount of, and you would have to put acres and acres of panels. Yeah. So, and natural gas, we started in this 24 years ago when they were selling natural gas as the cleanest fuel available at the time. And now natural gas is not at least pitched as not the cleanest fuel, but natural gas is the most cost-effective heating fuel compared to fuel oil that you have right now. So you cannot heat with electricity these buildings. These schools are not designed for that. Newer buildings, if you are building a new school, they are built with like geothermal heat pumps and stuff that heat with electricity. But you can retrofit these schools with electric heating. I mean, it's anything is doable, but the cost is prohibitive. Yeah.
I have a quick question. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I saw that you're putting solar panels at Highview. Do we own it, or is that part of Con Edison that we have to pay leases? Like, how does that work? I'm just curious.
The school district owns it. The school district owns the entire $21 million project.
Right, we have to pay for it. I guess what I'm asking is that if there's some damage through weather or anything happens, I guess we would have to repair it.
You would have to repair it, but what I have done as a part of your cash flow, and it's a requirement by the state, I have to provide operation maintenance budget across, and the project not only has to pay for the cost of the solar panels, it has to pay for the O&M of the solar panels. So that would be paid through the O&M budget that I reserve for you guys for the entire term of the project. So you have a cost to manage the project as well. So if the panels, but they come up with, they have warranty, and then you have O&M reserves to pay for the project. And the cash flows, sometimes what we do, we did for Warwick School District, is we put portion of the savings aside into an escrow account. So you have enough R&R budget. So if something were to end, something were to happen down the road, these things come with 25-year warranty first off. So if there's a fault of the manufacturer defect on the inverter side, they'll replace it for you. But if you're like, if something were to happen outside of our control, then you have enough money to fix the damage.
Gotcha. And so what you're saying also is that because it's a new roof, the solar panel will go with the life of the roof, is what you're saying.
Yeah. The life of these is 25 years at least. I mean, the manufacturer's warranty is 25 years. And we've owned systems close to that, our division. So 25 years, and the inverters are warranted for 10. That's a typical industry warranty, but that said, you could extend it to 25 years also for a premium. But yes, it will go with the life of the system, life of the roof.
Is the financing interest rate listed there, assuming current market conditions? And if
I checked with I sent a couple of emails, Lisa, to give me an indicative rate. I'm using this. I don't know. I'm not into. I'm using the rate that I used last time.
Right. So the prime rate goes up. This offer is good for a limited time only, and okay, and might have to be recalculated.
Yeah, but again, it's like the fortunate situation of the rates being say 7%. I don't know. I'm just going to mortgage, right? So 7%. Let's say what happens, then its cost of money doubles, right? So then we have to peel off certain expensive measures that have limited cash givers. I got to keep all the cash givers, and then we have to peel off a couple of expensive. The first thing to come up is the rooftop units up on, the 4 rooftop units. I'm just doing that because you would have to do them anyway, and you might as well just do it with this money. But if there is not enough money, then that comes off.
Then certain things come up.
Then,
Okay, got it.
yeah,
This is where we're at now.
This is where assuming I had to start somewhere.
Let's clarify things. This is the loan that the district is taking?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Third party.
And how do we pay that, yearly or monthly?
You're paying that yearly. You're
Is it cash out of our yearly budget, or is it via another mechanism? I just want to be clear for.
The way you structure it, it's usually a 15-year loan. It's a tax-free municipal lease. And what you do is you structure it with your financial advisor, so you don't start paying it back until a year after the work is complete. That gives you a year to accumulate energy savings in order to start using those energy savings to pay that loan back. The energy performance contract is actually for 18 years, which exceeds the term of the lease, but you would pay that back. So the money gets released in the beginning, gets put into that escrow account. And then as they do the work, we sign off on it and the money goes to them to pay for the work. And then you pay it back out of the energy savings over time, which are guaranteed.
Which are guaranteed, yes.
And we provide an M&B report early on, just to verify to the district the savings would cover the costs.
So we're going to pay the guarantee. There's a guarantee clause required by the state. So if you are not meeting your $1 million in savings, we are on the hook to write a check for the difference, basically. That's what it is. So the district is protected from a guarantee perspective. It's like an insurance policy that will ensure that you get your money. The energy savings that are guaranteed. So because then you have money to pay for the loan. And I have tested this with and without state aid, the state aid being 10%, 0 plus 10, I'm calling it. The 10% is water approval. That state aid portion comes, you probably already familiar with this, biannually. So every 6 months, 10% at the state average interest rates. I think the 2.25 or more than that nowadays. Yeah.
I'm asking because we've been saying to the public that this will mean no new taxes, no tax impact to them, and I just want to be clear.
Yes.
That's how that.
No, it's designed to be budgeted.
It's designed to be amortized loan. That it has savings to pay for itself.
But I think I'm getting confused with the cash flow. If the Con Ed terms are 18 years, but our bank loan is 15 years, the bank payments is going to be higher than if it was spread out over 18 years.
I just want to clarify, this project, I tried for 15 and I tried for 18. The loans could be for 15 or 18 years. Since we are pulling in high capital measures and I have to use an 18-year term for the loan. If you wanted to take only a 15-year term, the project has to shrink. I mean, the high capital measures have to come out, but then you would have to do them another way. I mean, you have to use.
So we will be able to get a bank loan for 18 years.
Yes, the bank, it's between, banks are a bond. I don't know how you're going to finance, obviously finance with a bond. I don't know how, there are different mechanisms that.
The school bonds?
They have done a bond, right?
Well, typically what you're gonna do is you can put out an RFP for financing to various states, Chase, TD Bank, and they're gonna bid and provide rates, and you're gonna pick the most competitive rate.
Yeah.
Lisa would go to your bond counsel as your fiscal advisor, and the district would put that out and get the best rates possible.
Trustee Warner,
Yes, ma'am.
do you know if there's been any conversation with our business office apparently this exact thing, the loan piece of it? And it's first one.
I know that there have been legal conversations. I don't, have you spoken with Lisa Raymond?
I have, but we're premature at this point. You know, the borrowing doesn't get discussed until we get SED approval.
Okay.
That's when you can go out and do your borrowing. So we're months and months away from that. So I have had discussions with Lisa. We talked about the basic outline of it and how it would happen. But we haven't gone any further than that at this point.
Okay, so then we definitely, as we get closer to it and not the week before, or 2 weeks before, the board needs to get more information about that.
From Lisa?
Yes, that's why I'm talking to you. So you can meet with her.
It don't need to be built into our messaging to the public.
It definitely does, but I want to make sure that they're having conversations and it's not just.
And just to remind everyone, we did just approve on Tuesday the financial event for in anticipation of moving forward.
I read up. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, no, I was gonna say, the EPC contract, draft contract has been looked at also by your legal counsel, and been approved preliminarily. You know, obviously, we have to add to it as we get more information.
Right. I did not, last time around, you probably have seen some numbers on the 25 years, but I thought it would be moved to go over that, the unnecessary hopes, because the legislation has been pending forever in the election season. I don't know if anything happens. So if it happens, we'll find out about it in November after that. But at this point, consider.
Question, please, before you move away from the financing.
Sure.
Are we going to need voter approval to borrow this money to finance the project?
From what I understand, we need voter approval to get 10% aid from the state, but we could still move forward with the project in any, even if we don't do that. But
So
if it is
technically,
done
energy
before we're
Yeah,
done-
let's downscale the project. Right.
Yeah, but Dr. Allen, I'm not sure, if, I don't know if you can hear me, but I just want to be clear. We don't need voter approval to take loans, but with this, in this case, it benefits the district to get voter approval so that we could get additional funding from the state. But just to be clear, in general, no, we would not need voter approval to take a loan. I think, was that what you were asking?
So the way energy
Yes.
contracts work in New York State are that they're considered a contingent expense. And therefore you do not need voter approval to proceed ahead. You only need board approval to proceed ahead with an energy performance contract. However, you lose your 10% incentive aid if you don't vote it publicly. So one of the discussions we've been having is to vote it publicly to get that aid, because it's a benefit to the school district. Project's going to pay for itself out of the energy savings, but why not go get voter approval so you get 10% back from the state?
Okay, so my follow-up question then becomes, if we put it up for voter approval and it doesn't get approved, that simply means we can go ahead, but we won't get the state aid. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, so what would happen is if we don't get the 10% aid, if we don't get voter approval when the board moves ahead, we're gonna have to make the project a little bit smaller because we're not gonna get that money back, that 10% back for the cash flow in the district. It'll still pay for itself out of the energy savings, but you'll go into negative cash flow at times during the project. So what we would typically do is work with Con Ed and take some of the more expensive work out, like maybe those 4 rooftop units that we talked about, maybe some of the unit rehabilitation that we talked about, things like that. We would pull those out of the project. So that would be the fallback plan or plan B. If the district would decide either not to put it out for public vote, or if the voters turned it down and the board decided to proceed ahead anyway.
So when,
Okay, thank you.
when do we have a list of exactly what will be pulled out for Plan B?
I can put something together. I provide, I don't know, Mr. Warren, did you see that? At least
One of the slides.
yeah, I don't know if there was one of the slides today, but there are, basically, if you go back, I can tell you which ones. The one slide up,
Zach, could you go back one slide, please?
okay, so you'll
have a slide where it lists the 4 ECMs, right? Later on?
I don't know if.
I'm not sure if they are, I sent it in an email, but I can tell you, the lighting, the lighting, the things that we're going to probably pull out are the 4 rooftop units, number 6. The Highview and the Bailey rehabilitation of the air handlers, number 7, the boilers at Highview 8. Those are the
Part of
3.
number 5.
And part of number 5, but we will still be able to put the new air intakes we talked about. So that measure will happen to meet the COVID, the air intake requirements and all of that. We'll put the thing, but we won't be able to recondition all the motors and bells and stuff. You could still do that under your regular annual O&M anyway. But this will give a new start life for the whole district. Because all the motors are old and some of them are very original and inefficient. Doesn't mean they are not running, they are running, not running efficiently. So this project will give you opportunity to change everything, clean slate, go forward, but we won't be able to do
Challenge,
that.
there's also still some moving parts, right? Because of the gas lines, maybe there might be some savings there also.
Yeah, the gas lines
We don't know.
the gas lines is actually the shortest payback item. The gas lines is like 6 years, 7-year payback. If you pull the gas line out, half of the project dies. So the gas line is a cash giver for the main project.
No, I'm saying if there's some savings on that based on what the utility is currently doing. So
So in other words, if the costs come down,
yes,
we developed
I'm just saying.
sure how much the cost will come down on that because I developed them very closely with the utility and the plumber and the mechanical contractor. So, well, if there is cost, obviously that's a transparent cost that will come down and that can probably pay for the boilers, but we'll find out. So those 4 capital measures will probably have to fall out. Again, if the interest rate is 10% and no rate, that's a different story. So,
Okay.
so
Other questions on this slide before we go forward?
I do have a question.
Go
Do these
ahead.
costs that you have for these items, I mean, they're so exact. So does it take in consideration once you get involved with the work, unanticipated things to show up?
Yeah, we have some contingency reserves, which is blended into these measures.
Okay.
I mean, the reason that you see them so exact is because the way it works is we have a contractor cost that is very exact. I mean, usually ends with 0. It comes and it goes through a bunch of spreadsheets and stuff and spits these numbers out that has formula. But yeah, I have contingency built into that because we run into that every day. So yes.
I'm only asking because will the district be in a position when, if that surfaces, where we would need more money?
No, you would not. No, that's once we guarantee, when you sign a ESPC contract, we got to live by that. If we miss something, that's on us. So that's why we have to do the due diligence we have to do, and to ensure that this is the guaranteed cost of the project and this is the guaranteed savings of the project.
And did you do that level of checking?
We did, I have to say, we did 90% of the level of checking. The only thing I did not do contingent upon even if the project, because there are high costs that I have to absorb for me to do certain types of tests, like geotechnical tests on the field, right? We got to do some board tests, see how much rock is in our trenching paths and stuff like that. So that cost me like $35,000 to do that. But the board says, we don't want to do the project. So I wanted to, the high cost items, I put it on the side until we get a direction from you. And then if the board is unilaterally interested in going forward, then I can go upstairs and convince the management that you are interested to move forward in general with the project. There is going to be a project, so we can make these investments. That's how we do it. But all the things that we can do, we did it. Yes.
Okay, now there's a guarantee process or an approval process from the New York State, correct?
That is correct.
So and how long does that normally take?
It's something you have.
I would say for an energy performance contract, 4 to 6 months.
Okay. Yeah. And well, you're going to go on and we're going to look at the battery energy storage system and all that here in a second. So I wanted to find out if you're paving the parking lot or the carport, things like that.
We're not paving the parking lot or the carport. That's not
okay.
Okay, we're just leaving the carport. We're just installing the carport.
Okay.
Sorry, the 4 to 6 months, that's not contingent on a date of a public vote, right? That's 4 to 6 months from approval of the final contract, or just want to know when that timeline is.
Okay, I can go over from where we are today, right? Okay, so if the board gives, okay, we are interested, definitely there will be a project. We feel pretty comfortable there will be a project, then we will finish up our due diligence and testing. Then we'll work with Fred in developing design drawings. And there are lots of stuff that the state needs, designs and calculations, spreadsheets, and tons of reports. So we'll walk all through that between now and February, March, something like that.
It'll depend upon whether we go to public vote. Normally, if it goes to public vote and it passes, then the project stays intact. We'll get started on design immediately. I'm going to say 3 months worth of design time. Then it goes up to the state. If the board decides not to go to public vote or it doesn't pass and they want to just do it that way, then the project's going to get smaller and then we'll start the design at that point. So we'll hold off on the design until it's been approved. And then once it's been approved, we'll get into the design work and then it'll go up to the state, take 4 to 6 months up at the state, and then we'll get approval and we can start implementing the project.
So once you get the approval, then you would start the procurement of financing. That's usually happens. We usually have about 2 months. I mean, districts that we work with took about 2 months, 1 month of RFP time and 1 month to select the bank, or however you want to do it, right?
That's concurrent with the design.
No, that gotta do that first. Okay. Design first and then SED 4 to 6 months. I mean, and then it comes back approved, like you get like like approval, let's see, SED certificate, some letter. And then that will be, then you give us an ESPC contract based on that, an NTP. So the contract that we're working with your legal will be
the contract will be signed. It has to go up to SCD with a signed contract. Once it's approved by SCD, yes, and they send a notice to proceed.
Then there's a notice to proceed.
And then at that point, it goes out to an RFP for finance.
RFP financing 2 months RFP for financing, based on my experience. And then once you get secured the money, then you'll give us a date to start work. And between then and now, I'll be working with my subcontractors in drawing the agreements and all of that stuff. And then once you secure the money, then we'll start the work.
So
And sometimes we'll actually have the district put the RFP out before we have SED approval when we're getting very close. So sometimes we'll get architectural engineering sign off. We're just waiting for the project manager to sign off. We'll advise the district, you can go out for an RFP now. So it'll shave a month off of that timeline.
Yeah.
And once we have approval, then you can actually do the borrow.
So in my mind, the voter approval is gonna take a little time. So why would we not consider moving forward with design and all of that of the smaller version of the project to get all that started and then layering in the other pieces once we get voter approval? Is that possible?
Well, we can. It's a risk to Con Edison. So if they authorize us to start the design work and then at some point the district decides not to move ahead with an EPC, then they're gonna have to pay us the design portion of the fee.
My question, let me clarify. My question is, you receive board approval that says, okay, we're gonna do an EPC, but that approval is scoped, taking out 6, 7, and 8, because that's what you're guaranteed. Once the board says, yes, that's what we're guaranteed, we're all on the same page with that, right? What I'm saying is, why couldn't we move forward starting with that once you receive board approval, so you know the commitment's there, and then layer in 6, 7, and 8 post vote if it passes? That way we're not sitting here waiting all this time between now and the vote actually happening. Is that possible?
You can, but things change through the state education department sometimes.
Right, the approval process precedes the contract.
Right, so things could move in and out of that project. So it could change the designs that are up there, so we have to go back and redesign things, so. I mean, we can talk about that. Typically, we don't do it that way. Typically, we wait until everything is solidified and then we design it, but. You know, we could pick up maybe, I don't know, 4 or 6 weeks if we didn't do it that way.
That's something to think about.
Okay, and then I spoke with Ivy Kraus, who said that if we were to blazing speed approve this thing November 1st, our next board meeting, then the earliest you could possibly, with all the legal notifications, get to a vote would be December 23rd. We don't want to do that just before everybody goes on fun vacation. So we're looking at January by the time we have a vote.
So thinking of your timeline, if I've mapped it out right, correctly. If we wait to have a public vote in May to coincide with our annual vote, once we go through all of these processes, we might not have work beginning until May, June of 2024. If I've done this correctly.
It's $20 million of work, so it's worth it.
And then we have 3 months of design, 4 to 6 months with NICEAD, and then 2 months to get the RFP for the financing. We're looking at summer 2024.
Right.
Which is why you were saying the last meeting, it's in our best interest, you thought, to move the vote sooner.
I think it makes a lot
I
of
just had to
sense.
think this out with a graphic in my mind too.
Because you can get 5 months worth of energy savings that much sooner.
Mhm.
And also, you know, the big question is why are you spending money to vote off season, not in May? And the advantage is you're going to pick up 5 months worth of energy savings, which is probably
More than the
$18,000 worth of energy savings, which will more than offset the $15,000 or $20,000 cost of a vote. So I just think it makes sense to do it sooner rather than later, so that we can implement things faster. You start to accrue the energy savings faster. Just,
So, but I guess similar to what we did with the asbestos abatement this summer, is it worth it to reduce this EPC? Go ahead with it like next week, next board meeting. Get that rolling in motion. We know we need a bond. We know we're gonna replace roofs. We know we will be doing another EPC in the future. And pick up those things that we can't do with the 10% less EPC this time. Is it worth it to start getting stuff going now? As soon as we possibly can for the things that we know we can do, minus that 10%.
Well, you would have to start the process all over again to do a second EPC. The state doesn't allow us to do a phase 1 and a phase 2. So we would have to go back out for RFP to all of the
Well,
ESCOs.
but we had already said that we would when we replaced the roofs, like Leah Jackson, we talked about when we replaced that roof, the solar is going to be good for our district in that location. So we know that a bond is going to at least be a replacement of the roofs of our solar. It's definitely something we're gonna need. So that is going to happen. And then we will likely do another EPC after that. So like it's in the cards, it's gonna happen. So should we just go ahead and move forward with the smaller EPC now to get the ball moving?
Well, you could certainly decide to do that. I think the time frame is quick enough that we're not losing a lot of time by going with the larger one and publicly voting it. And I think there's a lot of great energy savings in there that I think would benefit the district, like the boilers at Highview. I think that's a great thing to do. The rooftop units, which again are at end of life, things like that. I would say if we, it's only it's going to delay us 4 months, something like that. If we can have a vote at, say, the end of January, it's not a tremendous delay. If it was delaying the year or something like that, then I would agree. And we are talking about doing a second energy performance contract anyway, when we do roof work here in the district to then do solar. The other option is you can actually build the cost of the solar into the capital project. But again, now you have to put that money as part of a capital project or a bond. So it's going to increase the cost of the bond. So those are the two options that the district would have at that point moving forward. But I think what we've discussed is doing a second EPC as those types of things come online so that we can use those roofs to do solar on them as well.
So I think my concern is our loss of time. So to me, 5 months is that significant in what we have going on right now and all the things that we need to move ahead on. So waiting 5 months for the bigger project doesn't seem like a lot, but we have like 4 other things going on at the same time. So if we went with the smaller EPC, like the interest rate that was quoted is not going to be accurate for what we get for our EPC. So it's almost guaranteed the rooftop units are not going to be in our EPC because of the hike of the interest rate for the reality of what it is when we finally sign. So if we know we're going to lose items from the EPC anyway right now, why don't we just move forward with what we certainly can do as of today, next week? And then since we know we will be doing the roof replacements, we plan for that EPC for those other important items when we can do them.
So then, if we're not allowed to have an overlap, we're only allowed to do one project at a time, does the second phase get delayed until the first phase is completed? That is the MISED approval process is completed or not?
Doesn't have to. But, there's no requirements. So for instance, we get this question a lot. Do you have to wait till the 18 years is up to do a second energy performance contract? The answer is no.
No.
So you can do an energy performance contract a year later, you can do another energy performance contract. But these things have to be standalone 18-year or less payback. So if you pull out the longer payback items, you combine them with solar only, it's going to be very difficult, I think, to make that project to pay itself back for 18 years or less.
Oh, the second project. So
Yeah.
then the second project, all the low hanging fruit is gone.
Correct.
Okay.
So I think I've become convinced that we do need to aim for that vote as soon as legally possible. I was doubtful last meeting, but
Okay.
I think I've become convinced tonight. That, and I guess now, as soon as legally possible, has now been moved out to January instead of December.
I believe so. I don't want to have I want to have a Christmas vote.
May I make a comment, please? It
Yes.
sounds like it would be in our best interest to go ahead and say we want to do the vote. We want to do it in January. And I would suggest if we're doing it in January, that we not have the polls open from 7 a.m. until 9 p.m., but have the voting only during daylight hours by cutting the number of hours available to vote. That should cut some of the cost involved. And we could clearly advertise that for those who are unable to come during daytime hours, they could vote absentee.
I'm hesitant to do anything that would allow anybody to cry foul even when there's no foul. So I know the fire departments do things differently, but they have a tradition behind them. So I would prefer to have keep the polls open for as long as possible. Just do the normal thing.
Given the number of people that come out for elections, it's really a waste of everyone's time to have the polls open for 14 hours.
So at this point, maybe the first step is, do we need to have the committee make a recommendation to the full board on whether or not to aim for a vote in January and present that to administration? Or do we not have to follow that?
I think we should make that, that's the
next
next step. So the question is, are everyone's questions answered? I'm understanding, but, and I walked into this thinking, oh, we've definitely got to have the vote. If the vote doesn't make it, we do the reduced project. And then you almost convinced me to change my mind. And then I realized that if project one has all these wonderful energy savings in it, and I take them all out and I try and do project two is not gonna, it's not gonna work very well.
No, I understand. It's the time. The time just keeps passing, and that's my biggest concern.
Right, so.
Two more questions.
Go ahead.
They just came in my brain, sorry. The first one is, we still have the option that talk about potentially moving forward now with, I'm gonna call it less 10%.
No state aid, basically.
No state aid, and getting that rolling and getting that process going, and then layering in the other piece, which is with state aid if we get it. My other question though is, let's say you do this analysis and somehow you find there's extra money in the project somewhere. Can you add things in later once you've started the process, or is it just once you put in the list, that's it?
Once it goes to SCD, that's the actual start. I mean, until then, it's all internal.
Okay.
But once we start designing one thing one way, let's say the reconditioning of air handlers, right? If without the 10%, we can only do the fresh air intake grills, right? Okay, so if they start designing it only with the fresh air intake grills, and then we come back and say, oh, you know what, by the way, we can also add all these other motors and stuff, they have to redo the drawings. They got to go back and redesign them for that. So there is, that's why we try to crystallize the scope before the drawings are started. Because, you know, you can do drawings and then, because drawings take a lot of time on design, right? So you can't just go and redesign the drawing, you know, so it's not just an add-on. Yes. You know, you take different air pressures, and there are dynamics within the drawing that will change and that calls for a new drawing.
No, I get that.
As the guys at SCD, they recently added lots of new people at SCD. The last two projects, I mean, we went through actually fast cruise, but they are looking at everything with a magnifying glass these days. The state is doing the job. I'll put it that way. They're making sure that A plus B equals to C.
No, I get that, but you know, the way I see it, and Fred, correct me if I'm wrong. Once you start designing, it's not like you're gonna have the entire firm working on just that project. You have other projects, right? So you're not gonna go and start designing every single system at the same time. So I guess in my mind, it's, hey, if you prioritize projects that won't be touched, right? So 6, 7, and 8, you don't start the design for 6 at all, right? Because you know that's going to change either way, one way or another. But you start the other designs once we give you the approval. That buys us some time. That's all that's going up from here. I don't know if that's an option.
Yeah, we can definitely talk about that.
Okay.
I think it might pick us up a little bit of time.
Yeah.
I mean, normally we would assign a mechanical engineer to that job, an electrical engineer to that job. Once the mechanical engineer starts, he's going to work his way through all of the mechanical scope. And there could be multiple on this job because it's a big enough job, but you know, they're going to start and they're going to take, I don't know, 6 or 8 weeks to design. So we'd have to come up and do the field work on those so that we don't have to come up and do it again, and you know that that scope very well could be added, and then just concentrate on the other stuff in the beginning, and then you know add that stuff toward the tail end if we decide and are able to get the 10%. So yeah, there is a way around that. I mean, there is, I don't want to minimize this, there is a risk to Con Ed because you're not allowed to pay them until you get SED approval. So if SED approval changes scope because of their questions of whatever it is, could be the drawings, it could be you know, how they are going to allow you to do certain things, it could be the energy calculations, that job could get smaller. things could drop out of the job as a result, then that would be on them, because if we designed it and drops out of the job, they still have to pay us for it. So Con Ed takes risk when it's something like that, or if the job doesn't go ahead because you don't get SED approval and the district then changes your mind, they still have to pay us. So there is a risk associated with Con Ed, so we'd have to make sure that they were comfortable with that type of thing.
Sure. Yeah, my thought process is going that route. We can make the recommendation tonight to the board to move forward with the project. And we can vote on it at our next meeting to at least get that part out of the way while we line up the resources to get the vote going, because I'm in agreement with everyone here. I'd like to have this voted on by January as soon as possible. But I don't want to lose all that time at the same time, because this stuff takes forever, right? And then things will happen. I'm sure we're saying this date today, and then who knows, SED might get stuck for an extra week or two up there, and then it just drags.
Yeah. All right, so at this point, are there any other major questions?
I do.
Yeah,
I have
go
a
ahead.
quick question. So we're talking about replacing roofs. So what is the cost of replacing the roof at Highview? And I'm assuming that, at some point, Leaf Jackson will need a roof replacement, and I assume Woodlands and RJ Bailey too. I mean, I'm just curious, if we look at the big picture, right, of the district.
So if you look at the executive summary document that we're going to go over in a little while, there are line items. It's based on the building conditions survey, and you can go and look and see how much things cost. The thing that comes to my mind is it's a little over $1 million to fix the RJ Bailey roof, right? And then let's see if we can go school by school and figure that out if you need to.
To fix or replace? Do we replace because it's at its maximum life? It seems like end of life.
So example, RJ Bailey, replace all EPDM roofing and spot repairs to shingle roofing, $1,150,000, right? And
It's over $4 million, I think, according to DCS.
yeah, so they're multi-million-dollar projects.
They don't fit in the payout for this. We did ask that at the beginning of this project, and it's cost prohibitive to try to squeeze it in, so that's why it's not included.
So we will go and by other methods try and replace roofs, and as we do so, that will open up more solar panel territory, assuming there aren't problems with tree shadows, and then we'll have additional energy performance contracts.
Solar will stand on its own 18 years or less without adding longer payback items. So we can do solar only energy performance contracts. We've done a couple of them. So that will work. And it's interesting that, we used to be right up against it. Solar was like a 17.9-year payback, but now because energy rates have gone up so much, it's actually down in the 16s now. So the higher energy goes, the quicker the payback is on these PV systems.
So let's say this is not for tonight, I apologize, but let's say later in phase 2, we say we're gonna do the route, include the routes. Can we move forward in all the processes with the EPC simultaneously, or do we have the routes done before we start the process?
Well, you just have to phase it. So obviously you have to do the roof before you put solar panels on. So, you can do them, yeah. And usually it'll take, like on a big building like this, it'll take the whole summer and then some to get that roof done. So I don't know, then we would be doing the solar panels maybe in the fall or potentially waiting until the next summer. We'd have to discuss.
Gotcha. Okay.
But yes, you can do them, you can dovetail them together in that regard, just have to obviously make the time.
And that's actually what I'm thinking, rather than us going through this for each school, since they're all old and they're, most of them are slated for replacement. Can we really just bundle it together? I mean, do you think that's a possibility? Seems more efficient, I guess, for the long run. If we're really, in essence, we're planning for the next 25 years for each of these buildings.
Right. So the one thing that's going to compete with that is whether we want to expend a significant amount of money on the on the ECP students, and I think the lighted path at this point is to build a wing onto Jackson. So then how much stuff can you put into phase two? What will the traffic bear? So we have to have that debate, and we will once we get beyond this energy performance contract. Are there other questions on the energy performance contract? Okay, so I'm requesting, do we have a recommendation?
We recommend to the full board to move forward with the energy performance contract presented to us.
With an approval vote slated
For January.
of 2023. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Those
Aye.
opposed?
Aye.
Was that an opposed? Say, if you're opposed, say no. Okay, I believe, well, I don't have, we don't have to pull, we don't have to pull the committee. We've got a yes.
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. We will forward that on to the Board of Education at the next meeting. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks for having us here today. So do you have any more questions for these gentlemen before we move on to our next agenda item? Because it's now 8 o'clock.
Was there anything about the beds that needed to be discussed? I know there was something else going back and
Oh,
forth
yeah.
about that.
So, yeah, let's move to the slide that shows that.
Yeah, okay, this one, right?
Yeah.
So the nearest distance I measured it, I think I sent it to the gentleman. So the 285 feet from where the bus is located to the nearest residence on the high point. That's a high point, right? Right, yeah. So that's the path we're gonna go, right? That's where we're gonna, all the gravel path you see there, that's where we're gonna trench. And then we're not gonna put gravel, but we're gonna trench and backfill. That's where the lines are gonna run. But the bus is going to be diagonally against the high point, and it's 285 feet. And spoke with Garrett Duquesne from the town, just to get so we're working with the town also. So it's 100 feet is a regulation. You also have 50 feet with variant, but
From the property line, but the building is close to the edge of the property.
Yeah, so we got 285 feet. So
Question, I think, is if in that site, which is, we're talking about the drawing on the very right, the 4 or 5 little boxes.
Yes.
Where it says,
Are any trees coming down in between the property lines, or is it using that open space that's right there?
Again,
Are you taking any trees down?
No, using open space.
So
I don't.
the barrier that is there will stay there.
The barrier that's there, yes, I took utmost care to tell our engineers and designers to not cut a branch.
Okay.
We might have to trim a branch also if overhanging, but that's.
So when we say against High Point, it's not against High Point. There's still a mini forest in between the new facility and.
Correct, and we saw a picture of trees,
Yeah.
and of course, in the winter, those trees won't have leaves on them, but they'll still be trees. Okay. So you're saying that at 285 feet, we're well within the restrictive laws of the town of Greenburgh, if we were subject to those, which we're not.
We're not.
Okay. The other thing that has been requested for the projects that the planning board has approved is that, well, 2 things. One, that you use the latest and greatest, most fire resistant battery energy storage systems. I assume you're going to do that?
That's the Tesla system. Yeah, the one that I sent out this before I left here is I had a long calls with our battery team. I have it all the time. We just did a walk with the fire department at RD2 just recently. So basically, these systems are very self-contained. They have a thermal roof. They are very self-contained. They don't have a, what do you call it, a thermal overrun or whatever. They don't propagate fire. They self-contain the fire. It is
When
very,
some goes bad, it doesn't cascade onto the cells beneath.
it's very just contains, and then you see only smoke, and then if the batteries, you would only the fire won't come out, only the smoke, and then the fire you just let it burn. That's all, and then you don't have to do anything. It just burns and dies on its own. It doesn't propagate fire. They did testing. It passes NFPA 855, UL 1773, all those codes. And you did testing with 2 batteries next to each other, it doesn't spread from fire to the next one, it doesn't propagate. So
now the one other thing that they asked out of an abundance of caution was that there be a concrete firewall, a sleeve that the thing is inside, and there's a cost to that.
Yes, there's a cost to that. You could put it if you wish to choose to. We don't have that in the cost in our proposal, but you don't require that. I mean, honestly, you guys can go and look at the battery at Orange. That's exactly the same battery we're recommending here. It's right in the open. The fire department has, we would have had batteries like 10 years ago, but the New York Fire Department kept on, they were not becoming, they just postponing this, right? So that's why they finally approved that, for the city, it has to be outdoors, they do not require any firewalls.
Can you do the numbers on the concrete firewall and see what that does to us?
We could, yeah, I mean, we could look into the concrete firewall.
Okay, great. Other questions or comments? Okay, so
I have one question about the panels. Given the direction that the panels have to be focused towards the sun, would those panels be facing High Point so that the folks at High Point would see a lot of reflection off of them?
No, the trees around them, I think that they won't be able to see the panels at all, I think. These are 12 feet high or 13 feet high carports. These are, so you can't have buses come under, it's just cars and vans. And I'm not sure, we have to look into that. They are facing south, so they are oriented south. So this way.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard for me to say.
Yeah.
the north is the top of the screen, so.
Yeah, the north, they're
Right,
facing.
and High Point is east.
Trees are probably higher.
The high,
Yes, way high.
Absolutely.
the trees are very high, I believe.
I think we should be prepared to answer that question because people at Highview will probably want to know. I mean, at High Point will probably want to know.
But I think they'll be facing, because they'll be angled this way. So they'll be angled downward, actually. They won't be angled upward. So that if, I don't think there'll be any reflection.
They're angling toward the field, right?
Angling towards the field, yeah. And they're spaced, I mean.
So not that they wouldn't be able to see them, that would be a nice thing if they could see them, but I don't think there's gonna be any
So
reflection.
if your choice of looking at a reflective surface that's not pointed at you and looking at dirt, then.
There's a pitch to them. There's a pitch for the water now.
Is it a 10-degree angle?
Yeah, maybe it's a very low slope, yeah.
So then the reflection predominantly would be straight up,
Yes.
or roughly straight.
Yeah.
Right.
And using carports, I mean, they have a long span. I think what they designed here is a long span carport, like 2 columns in a long span. That goes up, I think it makes a slight curve or just slight, but it's slight pitched. So yeah, I don't think there'll be a reflection.
We installed a carport system at Mount Pleasant in Hollow, so you could always take it, right on Columbus.
My plane has one too in the Mount Avenue School, and it's right there.
Yeah.
And no reflection.
Okay, so I think we're good there. Other questions regarding the battery energy storage system or the carport?
In the future, if we wanted to, we could choose to throw asphalt underneath those carports, right?
Yeah, sure.
And you said that the only restriction is just cars and vans, no buses.
This is a 13 feet. I mean, if I have to do buses, I have to go 18 feet. There are only two types of cars. See that 13 feet. The ground cities about 8.
So where do the visiting teams park their buses? A little short, probably due south of the field, right?
A little space, it's a big old.
Yeah.
That's where they park the buses.
Right. They try to get to the trees on the south side.
Right.
Okay, so I think we're okay.
Well, that works.
Okay. That's it. Thank you very much, Jen.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you all for having us again.
Thank you.
Okay, back to the agenda.
Have a nice evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Okay. So finance, all right, so the finance items, Lisa Raymond is not here this evening. She's told, so basically everything, could you move back to just briefly to the agenda? So scroll back up to item 4, which is on the first page. Okay, so item 4 is Right, all the fundings, all the funding information, and I basically copied the same information that I got from Lisa and that came out at the September report. Is there any change regarding the audit committee information? Do we have any dates? Do we have any status of audits?
To meet with them next week, ideally, I'm hoping to reach someone and firm up some dates tomorrow. At the end of the day, the independent audit report needs to be submitted to NICEAD by November 16th. So we have to have it reviewed by the committee, presented to the board, approved by the board by November 15th. So we hope to have 1 or 2 meetings before then.
And
presentation to the board.
And do you have you had any volunteers yet for the community members of the audit committee?
One person has submitted their name. So anyone who's interested in joining the audit committee, please contact me, Chris Valens, C.V. as in Victor, A.L.I.N. at greenburgh.org. If there are more, we have policy which permits 2 public members to participate in that committee. If more than 2 people are interested, there will be a short selection process, but please, if you're interested, shoot me an email.
Very good. Okay, any questions on the facilities funds, and we'll take whatever questions there are and forward them on to Lisa.
So the only question I had to ask is, I think she's looking into, my question was, at one of the board meetings, is there a process to transfer funds between our repair reserve fund and the capital reserve fund via voter approval, so that we can take all that money that we have sitting in that fund that can't be used essentially and move it over to the other one? And I believe she said she was going to look into that. So yeah, I think that's just a pending.
Good, that's an important question. Okay. All right, fair enough. Then
David.
Go ahead.
This is Katie. Actually, for Ashley, did you look at the facility expenses and see that we didn't have a lot of quote unquote repairs needed?
Yeah, I'm aware, but I'm thinking long term, we may not use all the money that's in that fund. So I was looking to see if we could take some of that out for capital projects if we don't end up using it.
Okay, but I just want to be careful that we don't don't see that, oh, there is an important repair that would take, would need to be done too, and we have the money now for it. I want to make sure the repairs do get done also, or at least that we have a discussion about which takes priority.
Correct. And we would have to do that, and we would have to leave some form of capital in that fund, right? We're not going to deplete it. My question was more the process. Is there a process? Because every time I've had this conversation, I've never heard of there actually being a process. So my question is there a process? And she's going to look into that and get back to us.
And are you looking for the capital fund within the general fund, or are you looking for the capital reserve fund? Which one?
For me, it's the capital reserve fund, but.
Okay.
Also regarding the repair, I know we had discussions through Lisa with your legal counsel, and they had a very finite definition of what a repair was.
Yes.
So if we were repairing a door and it was unrepairable and we had to replace it in order to repair it, they said that's no longer a repair.
Yep.
Same thing with a roof. So I think a lot of the items that we might call a repair in our facility study might not qualify to the definition of what the attorney gave us. So I think the money would probably be more useful in a capital fund than it would be in a repair reserve.
Okay.
But
so once we find out that process, then if the board needs to take action to make that process happen, then we'll do it. Okay. Other questions? 5-year facilities plan. Plan requirements per NYSEP and board policy 5630. BBS has provided a 5-year capital facilities plan executive summary, which you can bring that document up now. Okay, and is Jim on the line?
Yep.
Okay, can you hit this is your draft. Would you like to walk us through this?
Basically, it's what we had presented at the culmination of our building condition survey. It's the summary of all the work that needs to be performed at each of the buildings, which was initially put out I think about 3 years ago now, and then we went in and took a bunch of projects out into phase one and into the energy performance contract. And we were asked to go back into this document and eliminate projects that are essentially in process of being constructed. So that would be everything in the phase one work. That would be the roof at the admin building. That would be the security vestibule at Woodlands, those sort of things. So any work that was identified in those buildings has been taken off the list if it's been bid and awarded. If it's projects that haven't been awarded yet, like the EPC work, we're still in the process of determining what work scope is in, what work scope is going to be ultimately out. We didn't want to remove any of that work from the executive summary because it is still potentially a work in progress. So there's nothing that we wanted to alter with that until there's such a time where there's a definitive work scope. So essentially, we just took the projects that were awarded and are currently under construction, took them off the list, left everything else in place for consideration for the phase two and future work. And as a ongoing document that'll be updated and modified, we did, I think, make one or two modifications based on committee recommendations regarding the Woodlands science rooms, where we made the priority of a priority 2 for the repair work, or priority 3, made it to like a priority 2 or a 1 to move that up in the list. And then we haven't really added anything new to it since there hasn't been any feedback from the district on the projects that were listed that we identified during our BCS survey that would have come about in the past 3 years, or something we may not have picked up on during our walkthrough. So everything is pretty much as it was, with the exception of removing the projects that were under construction and modifying things that were brought to our attention by the board, by the committee.
So let me ask you, you've got a number of things whose status, and the status line is EPC, energy performance contract. So if this thing is due, well, I think by next March, in terms of the version that's the upgraded building conditions survey that has to go to the state, and we're at the point of the process that we hope to be. Let's say, for example, that we're in the midst of negotiating out this energy performance contract at that point, having passed our resolution in the public vote. Will all the energy performance contract items still be in the building conditions survey at that point, or do you have to pull them out?
Well, the building conditions survey that gets submitted to the state, that's already been done. That was work that was when we went back and reviewed the buildings initially. So that work has already been submitted. This is just an ongoing document that when we submit our projects to the state education department, this gets attached to that. And they just review it against the work that's being submitted to make sure it is something that is on the list. And it's nothing that, got added, and they're going to look through it and say, well, all of a sudden you're doing a tennis court, but it's not showing up on your list. Where did that come from?
I think that once the energy performance contract is approved, I think we would then go in and pull those items out and update the report for you so that it's as accurate as possible.
Oh, sure. Yes. Okay, fair enough. So you're telling me we don't have to worry about an additional submission to NYSED?
No.
And okay, that was my only question. Other questions from the group? Does this meet the needs does this meet the things we're looking for? I know there were some requests about how can you tell whether something is a replacement versus a repair, or right, and then that goes back to I think the 5-year goal process that there were people. I think there was a subcommittee that met this summer to talk that through. Do we need anything more from this document, or are we satisfied with this document?
I think in all our descriptions, we're pretty clear whether we're replacing or repairing certain things. If we talk about renovate, that's typically an indication that it's not really a repair where you're just gonna, remove and put a door back in place. That's gonna be go in and, do a complete,
Maybe it is code for replacement, okay.
yeah.
All right, so, all right, if we're happy, then we don't need to, we don't need to do anything, correct? We're done. I don't think we need a recommendation. I don't think we need to send you back and say, here, go, very good, but add this extra thing. I think we're happy.
It's a continuing document, so as you have things that come about from many administrators, whatever, just, let us know so we can include it. But at this point, it's, the document, the way it is something that we would be utilizing in our upcoming projects in the SED submissions.
Thank you very much. Okay, so that takes care of the top set of bullets here. All right, so then now you dovetail your way back to the strategic plan and what's happening with the 5 years. This is the district-wide strategic plan now. It has a facilities sub goal, and we had a committee that met over the summer and tried to reason down from the top level goal to try and find out, kind of what sort of sub goals and objectives we need to go after. And then we're now about to have a phase 4 committee go in and look and say, well, what are the actual metrics we're going to use to measure the accomplishment of these things? And just to, and the bullets in this item are just to kind of review that. So the district-wide strategic plan infrastructure goal was we commit to update, repair, replace district facilities and technology to meet the requirements of the future classroom. There was a suggestion at a previous board meeting. This is my suggestion, but I don't think anyone objected that we amend the goal to not just say meet the requirements of the future classroom, but to also to ensure student safety and health and to meet the requirements of the future classroom. That way, we are putting a lot of resources into making sure our students are safe before above and beyond modifying things. And so if we added that into the goal, then what we really want to do will match the goal more closely. So that was my suggestion, my only suggestion at the highest level. I don't know if anyone has any comments on that. Then the phase 3 committee key action plan deliverables. If you looked at them, they included an educational benefits list because you're not designing facilities in a vacuum. You want to know what your educational objectives are and what you would have to do to achieve those objectives. The renovation versus replacement list, which is why I was asking about the line items. Safety and health requirements. So what exactly are we looking for? So for example, the fact that we put a warming unit in the early childhood program building so that the food would stay warm for the kids was, something that would meet a requirement somewhere. We should get a point for that. And we should make sure that, all of our facilities are similarly high quality. So what are we actually looking for? And how well were we doing that with that? And so we need a base list of what we're looking for in order to do that. A capital project timeline and a marketing plan. And all of those things are things that we just need to go out and execute. The phase 4 committee developing metrics based on the phase 3 work. The one thing, this is my objection, this is Dave talking now for this moment. The one thing that I objected to in the initial phase 3 committee output was that they kind of proposed that we would shoot for $100 million, that we would spend $100 million to do what we needed to do. And my goal is to be frugal and to try to do that $100 million of work without actually taking $100 million out of the tax base of the school district. So if I can do that with an energy performance contract, so that it's not more money out of the taxpayer's pocket, but I get the same benefit. If I can go out and there's an item that we thought was going to be $150,000 and we did it for 75, I want to get full credit for that and not be penalized because I didn't spend more money. If I can break things up in various ways such that I go, oh, I got $500,000 from the state through the kindness of Tom Abenante, then that's a great and wonderful thing as well. So I'm looking for other metrics that are going to measure my accomplishment other than how much money I spent. So I have a few sample suggestions of things that we could look at. For example, all buildings in satisfactory condition per our building condition survey. So if we look at, and there's an evaluation that goes with that checklist. And if you say, oh, well, you know, the ventilation is not what it should be, so you're not quite in satisfactory condition. Oh, let's fix that. At the minimum, we may never get to zero in terms of everything that's wrong with the school district, but at least if all our buildings are satisfactory, as we continue to try and catch up and repair and replace more things, I want to at least do that. So I would like credit if things were rated satisfactory. The percentage of building condition survey priority 1 and 2 items addressed. So if you have the highest level of items, the more of those you knock off the list, the better you're doing. So that might be a possible metric. Sample student success. We talked about silos. We talked about that we shouldn't just have a set of goals off by themselves, not related to the other goals of the district. So you have educational goals, that is student success goals. I believe that's how it's listed in the overall committee 5-year plan objectives. And so then we say, okay, instructionally, what do our facilities need to look like for that future classroom? So if I say students need to learn group problem solving skills, and therefore they're going to be getting together in groups, and therefore you need more square footage per student than you would if you were just all sitting in rows and columns and talk, and the stage on the stage, the teacher at the front were to, you know, pour instruction to everybody while they hold still for it. And then you're going to say, okay, I need my classroom to be bigger in terms of square footage per student than it used to need to be. How are we in terms of what our enrollment is versus the square footage in our classrooms? And then if you're going to work together in groups, are you going to need to drop the number of decibels from all the activities? So you need to put you need to kill the acoustics on put acoustic panels on the walls. You need to carpet. Oh, what's the overhead involved in cleaning that, right? And then so that you have certain metrics that you would come up with in that way. And then you could also go the other way. You could go project by project. So if I said, oh, I have a project, and this project is to update the science labs in Woodlands High School. And if I complete that project, check. Okay, that's a goal accomplished, and I should get credit for that. Or if I think the cafeteria needs to be upgraded in some way, and that's going to maybe increase your perception of how nice a school you're in, and the atmosphere will be friendlier, and we have like an SEL objective somewhere on the other side, the school climate objectives, and that's how the facility is related to that. To check, we've accomplished another goal there. So those are a few samples of how you could go about measuring progress other than how much money you spent. So that's my thinking. What do you guys think? What other ideas do you have as to objectives that we could come up with in terms of measuring our progress on facilities?
I actually prefer your second bullet point.
Okay.
Percentage of projects addressed.
Okay, so that's a vote for that. Okay. Other comments or questions? Folks online? All right, so there will be an upcoming phase 4 meeting, and we will continue to discuss that. And yes.
Well, I'd like to say that maybe if the public thinks of anything in the interim, and this is just kind of their first thoughts maybe, but maybe they could have an opportunity to email you over the weekend if they think of anything.
Sure.
Food for thought. And
everyone on the committee probably already has my email, but just in case, dwarner@greenburghcsd.org, DWARNER@greenburghcsd.org.
And I'd also like to say, I agree with you. I don't think monetary resource amounts need to be included anywhere in the metrics or the document at all. it's more of a support and it's not, it should not be a goal. I agree with you. I think you mentioned, I may have misheard something about, spreadsheet or tracking device. If not, I'll put it into better words later, but basically we've been talking for 2-3 years now about being transparent with where we are on other projects. We've gone through various iterations of a spreadsheet that have been, developed by our architect team and our business office. And
Sure.
I think continual update of that and publication on the website needs to be part of, I would like it to be part of what we're doing.
You want to post this on the website?
Not just that, I mean, the actual spreadsheet that listed,
Progress track.
Well, that's
exactly.
Yeah.
why can't it be a living document in Google Sheets that is live? We can view it, we can't edit it, right? But it's a viewable live Google Sheet that gets updated continuously. So it's not a printed copy, it's not a PDF, it's not something you get a piece of. It's one document that is always live, but we're just viewing it. We have no ability to.
We've asked for this for
And
3
so-
years, so I think if we really want to make it actuality, we need to state it specifically as a goal.
Yeah, I mean, Google Sheets is very easy to put that in. It's the same thing as Excel. It's just, the online version.
Okay, so, they're the same place that we have our Legionella reports and stuff that we just posted up there. There's a link, the link goes to the living document and we update it as needed, meeting by meeting. And so you put a date on it so that people know what version they've got and understand that it's the latest.
You don't need a date because it's living. So it's always.
It's a Google, it's almost like the Google Drive, right?
I understand, yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I'm saying that at certain points in time, people may take things offline. There are old paper baby people like me around who will print things out and then they won't know if they have the latest version of the document. Okay,
We're gonna put it updated.
so you just have a field that updates itself, okay, depending on when you printed it. And yeah, and then you're okay. Not a problem? Okay. All right, so any other? Oh, yes, one other possible goal could be the number of ECP students that can be accommodated. So if you're sitting at 140 students, but you want to have a program that's larger, do you want that to be as a goal? So I'm hearing a no, okay. All right, fair enough. So that's a question mark. Okay, fair enough.
Maybe for the submission of ideas to you, when do you want to make the cutoff? So you don't get an idea like 2 weeks from now, if someone's.
The cutoff is when the next meeting happens and I'll give you whatever I've got.
Or Sunday.
Yeah, just pick a cutoff, so whoever's gonna submit something to you, knows the deadline.
Okay, so try to get something to me over the weekend if you can. Thank you. All right, anything else on this agenda item? Okay, building condition survey, I think we've already talked about. RJ Bailey Auditorium, not a huge amount, well, we did have the scoping meeting, okay, so all of these bullets talk about the problems with the auditorium, what we've done about them in the past, how we got the $500,000 from Abenanti. Then down towards the bottom, we have a bullet scoping meeting with administration completed, seating, carpet, and flooring selected. Did you want to talk to this, Dennis?
We had a meeting with the architects and the principal of Bailey last week, just to get some preliminary ideas of the project. What we're looking at, the seating. We came up with first, we're going to concentrate on picking out the seating, the carpeting in the aisles, and the painting on the floor. Due to the funding, we're going to concentrate on repairing the roof. We want to have that watertight before we start putting new furniture and carpeting in the space. We talked about the different styles of seating, round back, square back. Some of the items wouldn't be available for this year due to the time of the year. But we had some thoughts, and we were going to talk about getting some mock-ups, having the company come in and actually see, feel, and look at some of the mock seats, so we can see exactly what they feel like, the material, the different color schemes.
Mhm.
And that was pretty much it. We also talked about originally the scope of the project wasn't talking about anything in the balcony, but if we could pick up a certain amount of seats, 75, 80 seats on there, principal had interest in that, so we're looking.
Include the balcony?
Including balcony. And we talked about the pit, how the delineation of the coral risers would delineate the seating in the auditorium itself, depending on how far they come out, which style you picked out.
So the coral risers come out not of this project budget, they come out of our regular budget.
That would be, yeah, we've had discussion about that, probably just from the regular building.
Okay, and last time we were saying, we had the possibilities of doing things with the sound system, visual stuff, and then we were worried that while we waited for that, we weren't submitting the project NYS.
Correct, so we were gonna focus on the basics first. We're gonna get the roof, the seating, and the interior structures. Then we're gonna worry about the tapestry, the drapes, and the sound system afterwards.
Okay, so the marching orders to BBS are go forward. And do you have all the info? So assuming you're not going to go out and design a sound system for this project that's being submitted now, you have all the information you need to go forward and make your submission?
Yes.
We have to do some more investigation on the roof, just to determine exactly where the roof leaks are occurring and to, come up with a scope for the repair. But as far as the interior work goes, we could start, we have layouts of all the seating. We just need to determine what the impact of the coral risers are, how much seats we may be losing because of that. So that we're working towards, but we do have, a decent layout that shows, the seating capacity for the main seating area plus the balcony. So we're good with that. And as Dennis said, we're going to come in with another meeting to present colors and fabric samples once there is a, physical sample available of the two options of chairs that were presented. So we're, working on that right now.
So when do you think you can submit to NYSE?
Late fall.
Yeah.
And I think we're still on target for that.
So late fall, what month is late fall?
Maybe the end of November.
So you're looking for a November submission?
Yeah, I would say November, more likely early December, because I got to get out there and look at, that roof a little more closely. But yeah, I would say target the end of fall, or end of November, early December.
I just want to verify, so it was decided by the team that met, which includes the building admin, that they didn't want to see if any sound or lighting systems would fit under the budget as currently presented.
We did the budget estimate based on the money that was available in the grant and determined that there wouldn't be money available to do anything with sound or lighting.
Okay, thank you.
So a clarification question. So once the seating and the carpeting and all that's done, it's not complicated to come in later and retrofit the sound and the lighting and all that. That's all.
Okay.
Not an
No,
issue.
it wouldn't disturb anything that got done.
And then when we talk about the balcony area, were conversations had of whatever seating is added there, still preserving whatever space will be needed for any sound or lighting equipment that would need to be up there facing the stage. Was that part of the conversation as well?
Yes, also, just the height of the railing for safety concerns also. That's, the railing is low up there. We would have to accommodate that with some type of barrier.
But that's all part of the conversation. I just want to make sure that we don't do something and then have to undo it. Okay.
Right, so leave space. When you fill in the balcony, leave space. Okay.
So that's, you went exactly where I was going. So then if we did plaster repairs, I'm just going, if we need to do any wiring for new lighting or sound, I don't know where the wiring would go, but I mean, we're doing plaster repairs as well in the interior. None of that would need to be redone if we added in new systems later.
I believe it'll be limited up. There is an attic up above the auditorium ceiling. That's where most of the
projection.
No, actually above, like for the other lighting, this above the projection roof. Yeah, that's how you access the area. That's,
that ladder.
That's where it's needed. Okay, thank you.
it should be limited. You might have some speakers or something in the sides or something, but you have access
That
to
was
the
the
top
top
of the
of
ceiling.
channel, because you'll go through. the
Correct.
top.
Right.
Okay, thanks.
I actually have a quick question. This is Amy. So I understand there's no budget in it right now for the sound and lighting, but if there was, how much would it be projected to be? Because I just want to make sure that we do think about it, because for those of us that have had kids gone through RJ Bailey, the sound was so terrible. It'd be such a shame if we spend money to make the auditorium nice, which it deserves to be, but not to be able to hear anything, because it was hard to hear, music presentations or plays, or that's where they hold their assemblies. So it would be just as paramount, I think, ultimately, to have at least a reasonable sound system.
So the project scope that they came back with a few months ago was a project scope that includes sound 50 to 70K and lighting system 75 to 150K, depending on costs and funding availability. So there wasn't an estimate on curtains there, but there you had your ranges for sound and lighting, depending on how high end you want to go. So you're looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars, not, more.
Right, like 100 to, I guess,
200,000.
200,000. Okay.
Okay.
One comment, please. I heard you talk about fabric selection for seats. I'd like to once again state that for cleanliness purposes, it would be best not to have cloth coverings on the seats.
Is that an option? Is that an option? I know we eliminated wooden back seats because we couldn't, they were cost prohibitive.
I don't remember seeing any that didn't have a fabric. James, do you remember that?
There was one chair option that was just totally wood and it would not be available until 2024.
What about plastic coverings, vinyl?
You would not want to do that to your auditorium. That auditorium is such a beautiful space. I would not recommend putting a plastic seat in there.
I'm thinking of the covering on the seat being plastic. You can't clean cloth very well. It's very difficult. It collects dust.
There may be options
dust
for a
mites.
vinyl fabric as opposed to a woven fabric. I've never seen it, but we can find out from the manufacturer what they have. Those typically do wear faster because the pliability breaks down quicker than a fabric. So you will be dealing with a lot of replacements of something like that over the many years versus a cloth product. But when it comes to cleanliness, if that's the biggest concern, then that's something we'd have to look into.
I also saw a seat in the Woodlands Auditorium, beautiful cloth. It had been cut open. So cloth is also destructible.
As is vinyl. But yeah, we'll look at any option.
Plastic is scratching it.
Chris, you have your hand up?
I just wanted to see if Mr. Pugley said any, because you referenced the Woodlands Auditorium, is that Dr. Allen? Have you had trouble cleaning, or Dr. Allen seen one Rick Steve? Has there been any problems with the Woodlands Auditorium?
Typically, we don't have that kind of damage like graffiti or anything on the seats. Typically, what you can do is you can replace the whole back with the cloth if there was something terrible that happened, if somebody spilled coffee or something that came out, or somebody ripped one, you can change the whole back with the fabric. But typically, we don't have that here. I haven't seen it yet.
How do you normally clean a cloth seat?
Typically, you could like during the COVID, we missed them with the hydrostatic to disinfect them.
Just spray.
Thank you.
Yeah, you spray the it cleans on there.
Dubious about whether the plastic is better. Okay.
Just curious, when we're not in COVID, do we do that a couple times a year? Just curious what our protocol is.
Periodically, well, lately we've been, we were in the COVID days now, so that's typically part of the, especially like after a big event or something like that, just go in. And
We still do that. Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
Okay. So, other comments or questions?
Just one thing to mind. What's the life expectancy of manufacturer support of one of these chairs? Is this the kind of thing where we can expect that they'll still support the product and have replacement parts 10 years out, 15 years out? Like, what does that look like with these things?
I don't know what the warranty period is on the chairs. Typically, there's a, contractor's warranty period for installation. But as far as a long-term maintenance plan or warranty, I'm not quite sure what it is for the particular lines that they offer.
I haven't heard of any issues though with us getting replacement parts for any of the auditorium seats that we've done.
No, that's usually pretty readily available, and they leave you an attic stock of arms and backs and bases, typically of like a 10% or 8% of your seating.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Other questions? Okay, so moving on from the RJ Bailey Auditorium. Greenburgh campus water lines and fire hydrants. BBS preparing NYSED submission. BBS has not received topography report and is following up with subcontractor on this.
Still waiting for the final survey information. I haven't received it yet. I was reaching out to Lisa to see when the PO was cut, but I wasn't, because I guess she was out maybe today or whatever. I have not heard back from her yet. So we still have not received survey information. So as soon as we get that, we can finalize the design. But as of right now, we do not have.
And there's some kind of guarantee that they'll come back to us in a timely manner to actually provide the report.
I thought they were scheduled to be out here in October, but I don't believe they've been out here yet, from what I understand. So I just wanted to make sure that the PO was in place, and so I'm not exactly sure where that is. I wasn't able to get on with Lisa, so it might have been issued a month ago, and they just haven't been out here. In which case, we yell at the contractor, and get them here.
We'll check on that tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, I have no problem.
Okay. Any other questions on that?
Is that a contractor would have had to approve? Or no?
American Engineering Services or Land Survey Services, ALS, AES.
Okay. Other questions on this? And if you pop up with something in the next few minutes, great. Phase 1 ventilation and high view roof project. We showed you the pictures earlier. So BBS had submitted the project, NYSED, in December of 2021. It finally got approved in the middle of July. So now we're doing work, right? The bid process is complete. The Board of Education has approved contracts. The high view third grade wing roof replacement is in process. Last Thursday, there were heavy rains. You want to tell the story?
Oh, yep. Last Thursday evening into Friday, we had torrential rain and winds. We had some water penetrate several classrooms, 2 classrooms pretty bad, and then into the hallways. The roofing contractor was there in the middle of the night. We took some plastic and diverted the leaks into barrels and buckets. And fortunately, with the tile floor, as fast as something came down, it was mopped up. There's no water damage in the building, other than some ceiling tiles that were replaced the following weekend, the following Tuesday night. Everything was patched up. The roofer had went back on Saturday and made sure that the roof was watertight again. And we had some rain Monday evening, and it was nothing in the building again. So what we did is we started having the roofing contractor had his 3 guys in there replacing the damaged ceiling tiles in the hallways and the majority of the ones in the classrooms. So it looks, pretty much like a normal, pretty much how the building was. And at the completion of the project, the couple tiles that have a couple of water spots or whatever, he's going to replace anything that had any water spots on it. And as far as the deck on the roof, there was like no chance of mold. It was just roof deck. It's all metal. Everything was dried out over the weekend. And before we put everything back and dried it up.
In the same vein with the mold, did the carpet get wet and has the carpet been cleaned, so there's no mold?
The carpet was cleaned several times, yes. Yep, it was.
So there is no cost to the district.
No cost.
No cost to just, right. All right, so the entire project is under, okay, so. Okay, so the entire project is under construction and is now scheduled to be completed in January of 2023. Are we still on schedule for that?
The vestibule you're talking about, or the roof?
I'm talking about the Hy-Vee roof and the phase one ventilator, well, yeah. Go ahead.
Yes. Still on schedule.
Good.
And the vestibule still waiting to order the materials.
Yes, all right, moving on to the next item. The
Katie has her hand up.
go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wondering about while this project is going on, what's the expected like noise level for the, is it happening during the school day or is it?
They're working, you're talking about the Hy-Vee roof, they're working in the evenings mostly. So so the picture I showed you with the cranes moving the large pallets of materials onto the roof, that was 5 p.m.
Yeah, 3-4 p.m. they start.
Yeah, so they wait,
At least in the Hy-Vee building, yes.
And they're going to be working in the dark, or I mean, with spotlights, or what? It's going to be really dark soon.
Right now, they're almost completed with the roof work.
Oh, okay, great.
Within the next couple of weeks, they should be,
Okay.
So what you lay down a layer of wood and then you roll out a
They lay down the bottom layer and then they put the foam on top, they build it up and then they secure that, but it's not a huge space. Probably 2 weeks, they plan on wrapping that up, I'm told.
Okay. So that's it. Okay. All right, onto the security vestibule and the mansion roof. Right, the early bullets are things that we've already discussed a million times, that we got the money and we finally got approval from for all of the pieces of the money that we needed. I did post a vestibule detailed drawing attachment. If anybody wants to look at that, people wanted to look at where the hallways were and all of that. That's on Google Drive. The security vestibule and mansion roof projects were combined for bidding. So now the summer is gone and the vestibule piece has got to happen during the course of the school year. So we have a workaround for bus loading and unloading if we're basically building a vestibule at the main entrance and exit from where the kids come off the bus. And so some kids will come off of the gym entrance and exit, and other kids will either go around the buildings and come out to the main parking lot, or if in the case of inclement weather, they'll come out the hallway on the art wing side, and that's how we'll do it when the materials arrive for that part. In the meantime, on the mansion side, you've got the masonry work, and masonry is temperature sensitive, so they're doing that first, and then you've got the roofing work behind that. And I showed you some pictures earlier. They put up all the safety equipment on the side so that bricks don't fall on people's heads while they're doing their work. And they've gone to work on the masonry, basically, I think mostly in a strip along the top, just below the level of the roof. And that's kind of that. Any other updates? Any questions on that?
When do we anticipate the materials arriving?
We're getting a project schedule from the contractors that'll start to show when the delivery dates and materials will be arriving, tied in with when they plan on being on site. So that's information we're still gathering.
So we've got listed here an expected construction completion in January of 2023. Should we leave that alone?
For now, yeah, I don't see anything. Nobody's indicated that's going to change on our part.
Okay. Other questions? Yes. No, that was. Then smaller projects, ECP main building, new engine materials installed, and you want to,
I'll take us through this, yep, let's see, ECP building. We replaced the edging around the park playground. A lot of the playgrounds had the old railroad ties that were decrepit. I had the far playground replaced with plastic polymer. We added mulch to all those playgrounds as well as some of the other buildings, but the ECP playgrounds received mulch, and the far playground had the new perimeter installed. I have a contractor coming out to look and repair. Actually, I have a couple of quotes, and I got a price for the fence to be replaced in the corner. Right now, it's had safety fence. That's the fence that was there probably for 70 years or so when it was horses used to be back there. So they're going to replace the one piece of perimeter fencing, 80 to 100 feet. That's happening in the next couple of weeks. This way we get rid of that orange safety fence that's in the corner for the first 10 feet that, I guess, deer or something ran into it and knocked it over.
so by mid-November, okay.
Okay. We also had a doorbell installed over there just last week.
Okay.
Let's see. Move on to LF Jackson. They had one of the refrigerators go down in the kitchen. It wasn't achieving the proper temperature. We had it serviced and repaired. On the Jackson, we also had outdoor road and pit stations installed around the perimeter of the building to help alleviate the problem of the mice coming in this time of year.
So you trapped them before they ever reached the building?
We're trying to alleviate some of them that are outside first, before they can make it into the building. Highview, the access pass to the nurse's office was completed. And we're talking about the window project. That's been going back and forth now. The original number that we had at one time was 57,000. It didn't meet the codes, so we would have to rescope this, probably get some a submittal, some help from the architects, PBS, to help us out with this. To
more for you.
Some revised specifications. James, if we could, try to spec out some windows for those rooms that we're looking at, maybe get a cost on that, because it's going to be more than what was anticipated from a couple of years ago.
Yeah, no, we have a window spec that we'd be able to, give you the right documentation for.
Okay.
Okay, so ball's in your court. Okay. So we'll need a price and how long it'll take.
At Bailey, we've had some lighting replaced over there. A couple of the lights were out. We replaced a couple of the lights on the side of the building with LEDs. A couple of lights up above the exits on the outside of the building needed a photo cell or some replacements. Those were taken care of. Boiler room, we have 2 vacuum pumps that have leaks now. One is currently being rebuilt. And right after that one was taken out to be rebuilt, the second pump went. So hoping to have at least one of those back within the next week. At least we can still run the boilers. It's not the greatest idea to run it with the 2 pumps missing, but we've been able to maintain heat in the building in the morning for a couple hours without any difficulty.
Okay, so what's going to happen is you're going to fix the one and then pull the other.
Correct, yeah.
All right.
What they did is they took one out and they put a cover on it just to plug it up, and we're running with the other pump now, and then when we get the other one, we're gonna play the shell game.
Got it. Yeah.
So the EPC only talked about the Heidi boiler. Is the Bailey boiler old?
Oh, that's just one of the pumps, like also, yeah, there's tons of pumps and mechanical things in the boiler room. The boiler has no problem making the heat. It's just, sometimes you have a circulator pump or a vacuum pump for the controls. Let's see, we had, the Legionella test, at Bailey. On September 15th, we detected, levels of Legionella in the hot water. So what we did was we turned off the drinking fountains, back then. And the bottle stations. Even though that there was nothing in the cold water, the bottle fillers or anything out of just for preponderance of caution, we decided just to have bottled water coolers always for the children to drink until we could mediate the system and have it retested again. The test came back negative. Yes, question.
That's all good news. Could we post those letters onto the website? Could we work with Mr. Lee to do that? I know as a routine, we usually post all that information on your facilities website.
Okay.
Just so it's publicly available. Thank you.
That's the environmental science report that says things are clear as well as that things weren't. Okay.
Yep.
I have a question about that. About the Legionella. I see that you're gonna do a chlorine flush every 2 months now.
Just as part of.
I'm just curious, why is Bailey susceptible to this? This was happening a few years ago too, when my daughter was there. It seemed to happen, I think even last year, maybe.
Yeah, it's been a consistent problem. Typically what happens in an older building, the pipes form scale, Legionella, grows and breeds within certain temperatures. And especially in the older buildings, you could either run really hot water in the hot water system, but you don't want to do that. So you don't want to scald the children. A lot of those faucets don't have scald guards, so you have to be conscious of that. So what we plan to do is just preemptively every couple of months, just run a little bit of chlorine through the system on a long weekend or on a holiday or so, just to preemptively keep anything from breeding in the piping system.
Okay, thanks.
I'm told it's a common problem in older buildings, and Bailey's, it's 100+ building.
So a follow-up question on that. The Legionella, it's typically in the water tank itself, right? That's where you have the issue.
It was in the hot water tank, and it's always flushed the whole hot water system. It was one sink it's used for hand washing, and another one that was up in one of the bathrooms upstairs.
Okay. So going back to the temperature thing, is it possible to put an anti-scald on the output of the water tank itself? I know for residential, they let you do there's the cold water mixers you put when it comes out of the tank itself. Is that?
But then if you have a long line.
Yeah, that's what the problem is.
The water gets cooler.
The water gets cooler in the building, it sits there.
The furthest bathroom, right?
Yeah, that's what the problem would be, yeah.
So you're limited to 100 degrees in an elementary school that's allowed to come out of the faucet by state regulations. So you now have to set the temperature lower back in the boiler room. So it's not ideal. You need above 120 or 140 to really kill the Legionella, but you're not allowed to put that out there by code. So you're kind of in between a rock and a hard place in that regard.
Okay, so if the water tank today is set to, let's say, I don't know, I'm gonna pull a number out of the air, 120. With the anti-scald, if we cranked it to 130 or 140 for the tank itself, we're saying that the piping runs are too long to maintain 100 degrees at the sink.
You would have to run, the tank isn't sufficient. It takes, when I was just trying to run the water to get it up to the 3rd floor, a lot of the faucets have these little meter things. It takes you for hours. It's not even like some of the faucets in the elementary schools.
So what happens is
They don't have an on and off. It's the metered ones that only let a little bit in case the kids put the paper towels in the sink and they would turn the water on and go back to class and flood the building. That's part of the problem.
Okay, so I guess
when the water sits in the pipe for a long period of time.
Yeah, and it's, gallons, it's, 50 to 100 gallons by the time it gets up to the 3rd floor.
So I guess my question is, if the chlorine doesn't work, what's our next step?
If the
Chlorine did work.
It did work. It's always worked thus far.
Okay.
What
That's how they
happens is-
remediate.
Yeah,
Right.
that's the remediation part of it, because I guess in the old pipes, the scale in there holds and breeds the bacteria and.
So you could remediate by cranking everything up to some horrible high temperature and killing everything in the line, but the water coming out of the while you're doing the flush would be scalding. You have to keep everybody out of the bathroom, but then you're back where you were.
That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is if that didn't work, and we put an anti-scald on the output of the hot water tank, that would not have the children burn themselves. And then addressing the point about the water being too cold coming out, there's two choices there. We could change the fixtures themselves, so they're not,
Yes.
or we could put in a recirculation system. I'm just trying to think long
Yeah,
term.
there's
This
different
doesn't work,
things.
right? Because it keeps coming up every year. So let's see how the chlorine works. Hopefully it
Yeah,
does.
it looks like, this is just part of the remediation process. I'm sure if we do this every couple of months,
Okay.
we'll be fine.
Sounds good. Thank you.
But is this like random testing that it shows up at?
But yeah, this is just random because I know that there was a problem in the past, so I just,
So like, is it possible that there's a period of time where we haven't done the chlorine cycle, it is living there, we're not aware of it, it's in the system, and it will get cleaned out, but it is gonna.
I mean, unless you with the tests, actually the test for Legionella, it takes 2 weeks just for the test to come back because it has to harbor and breed, it has to. So I think if we test periodically, I think we're gonna be fine.
So how often do you test for you?
Oh, well, now I'm probably gonna test like every 2 months, probably just to. Actually, I'll probably just test again next month just to make sure. Until we get this underhand and we see like what the pattern is, okay, is this a problem? How often do we need the remediation, whatever we're doing is working. I believe if we treat the hot water tank like every 2 months, I think that'll be sufficient. But just by testing, then we're gonna find out.
Just a stupid question about the chlorine flush and the potability of the water. I don't know how that process works.
Okay.
Flush is done on Monday, the water, Monday
Yeah.
afternoon, it's potable the next day, or?
Typically, we flush it on Friday afternoon, let it sit all weekend. Early Monday morning, before anybody comes in, we run all the water. And then we flush it out and we just keep continuously running the water. By the time the kids come in, it's only in the hot water system anyway. It's not used for drinking or anything, but throughout the day, probably if there's anything at all, it's dissipated. It's probably not even as like being in your pool. You don't have to super saturate and super chlorinate the school to achieve your results.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Other questions? Moving on to Woodlands. Go ahead.
Let's see. Woodlands, okay, Woodlands, we've also added the outdoor bait stations to help take care of the rodent population. The exterminator also had to remove a huge hornet's nest above the gym. So the elevator near the weight room, the classroom elevator, that had the doors and rollers replaced on all floors. That was a pretty big project. It took 5-6 days to complete. But now that we should have some more consistency in that elevator, it's brought back up to date with a lot of new parts. The volleyball sleeve installation, it's scheduled for second week in November now. So a lot of coordination, just when we could get in there. When there wasn't a volleyball game, when there wasn't students in there, it had to be on a weekend or a holiday. So we picked our date. Some of the cracks in the upper parking lot on the steps have been patched and repaired. See, there was a leak in room 313. One of the heating control diaphragms had some corrosion. That repair has been completed. We had a new stove installed in the kitchen, a 6-burner stove at the Woodlands kitchen was replaced, and currently they just started removing the walk-in refrigerator box project that we're talking about for several years now. They had trouble finding parts and equipment during COVID. The contractor came in yesterday, removed the old unit. Today, he put the new unit in and it's up and running. It's not finished yet, but it is functioning right now.
Okay, so for that one, what was the scope? It was just the cooling unit and all the cooling related stuff and the box of stuff?
Yeah, it's a walk-in box. It's I don't know, maybe 9 by 12. It's a real walk-in with an L.
Okay. So the shell stayed intact. They just replaced the mechanicals.
No, they replaced all the shell, the
shell.
outside, everything. It's all new. The compressors, everything is outside now. The electrician had to coordinate the work. He had to disconnect everything. The contractors came in, put the pieces of the refrigerator around, the foam and bolted it together. And then the electrician came back and wired the new unit outside, and they fired it up. Actually, this afternoon, it's maintaining temperature now. Okay. They said they have to do something. One of the controls isn't right, but it's working right now.
Got it. So basically, from our perspective, it's now set and forget for X number of years.
Yeah, I mean, you would expect that.
Okay.
The old one was a disaster.
I'm sure.
I heard that one of the elevators here was not working. I don't think it was the one by the weight room. Was there a few days where the other elevator to the classroom section?
That's the one we were talking about.
That's the one you're talking
That was off for 5 days probably.
Okay, the day my kid was on crutches, so.
Yep, that's the one. Let's see what else we had.
I think Katie has her hand up.
Katie, question?
Yeah, I was wondering if there's any plan to address the potholes on the, it's the driveway leaving the high school. And I also saw a part of the curb, a tiny part of the curb on the, if you're going down it on the right, is knocked over and like off the grass. I have pictures if you need them, but obviously you're there so you can see them.
Potholes leaving the driveway. Are we talking out of the Woodlands parking lot? Heading
Yeah.
down towards the mansion?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I'm looking to see if we could, I would like to do that parking lot over the summer. I have some funding and that would be the roadway also included in that. That's the next parking area that needs to be done.
Can we throw gravel or something in the big hole that's there now?
Oh, okay, if there's something like that, I can throw some millings or some blacktop in there. Yeah, I can see if we can patch that up. Okay.
Katie, do you mind sending the photos?
Yeah, if you send me a picture, this way we're on the same page.
Patch now, replace. Next.
Yeah, I'll send them.
Yes.
Okay.
Get pics from Katie. Okay. Bus garage, we were looking for funding sources for a pilot program. We figured out that an electric vehicle and a charging station would be costly. Right, and then the question is, okay, that doesn't mean we shouldn't do it, but where do we get the funding? Do we know anything more?
I don't know how we're gonna.
All right, TBD
on that. To be
done. Okay,
And, well,
yeah.
I don't want to stay on this, but if there's money available from the state to the transportation provider, not us, but the
Mhm.
buses, is there also money available from the state to, I guess it's our property though, and we lease it.
Yeah, what happens with the buses from what I was learning is we would have to be in partnership because we don't own the buses. It would have to be between Royal Coach and ourselves. If we owned our own bus or buses, we would get the state aid for the bus. Like maybe if we wanted to start a pilot program, like maybe we buy a van
bus.
or
So we own the
delivery truck or something like that. And that's how we could start our pilot program.
I didn't know if the EV station funding was tied to ownership of the transportation, like who would need to apply for that money?
It was for the buses that they owned, it would have to be in conjunction, we would have to be like a partnership. Unless we were to say, okay, here, we're gonna take this van, we're gonna use it for students or deliveries and get the state aid back from that, and then it would be our entity.
So the question I have there, this is obviously for a follow-up, because I don't expect you to have the answer now, is We know that, at least my recollection, is the biggest expense when it comes to the buses, the fuel. And my understanding was that the state would cover the fuel for EV buses only for a certain amount of time in the next few years. Is it possible to work with Royal Coach to encourage them to invest in doing whatever they need to do so that we get the fuel savings?
Yeah, I feel like you say it's they would have to agree to it, and I don't know if we could coax them into that, so to speak. I don't know, that would be a topic for.
Yeah, because our next contract renewal is what, 2 years out? 1 year out with them, I think.
Well, that's the time that, you know.
So that's why I'm bringing it up.
Yeah, that's when you bring it in and say, oh, you want to have a little.
Yeah, that's why I'm raising it now, because I think it's 2 years out.
Pilot program clause, okay.
Okay, but there is a lot of other things that we know about until, you know, the backup generators, what if one of those trees fall down, we have to have.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's why I'm raising it now.
It's good, it's good to think about it now, yep.
They had a pilot program going on now with the White Plains Bus Company. Have you looked into seeing how they're doing that program?
I have not.
But they have, I mean, I see the electric bus literally every day. And I know the White Plains Bus Company has it. So I don't know how the state and whatever they did, but you see this electric bus coming by every day,
Yeah,
so.
actually, the county buses even now.
Yeah, so where they get the charge and how the White Plains get it, how it, all these other schools getting it upstate. There's a whole program where a bunch of them are getting busted to test out.
Yeah, that's another part of it too, just the infrastructure, you know, we own the electric coming down Old Pat Capone Road, it's a quarter mile or third of a mile, and it's, you know, we would have to see. Yeah, it's very
Well,
close.
if we're putting in the panel, maybe the Con Ed, again, you know.
Maybe we could have a charging station in the back for a couple of vans or something like that. And it's something that.
I mean, that it's right down the street.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we keep being told that we don't know the buses and Royal Coaches and have plans to get new buses, but A, they might not always be our provider, and B, the state has laws, right, that either by 2027 or 2035, or the date, 2035, they have to do
Yeah, they have to
so
do.
we have to start planning.
Right, so if they don't plan it, eventually they go away and another vendor takes over.
Yeah, I know, if White Plains Bus is doing it, and City of White Plains doesn't own White Plains Bus Company, do they?
I don't think so, I think.
So
I think
they
they're
have
paying
to
the
like the
customer.
bus,
but-
so
Yeah.
it's already, so obviously other bus companies are doing that. So something to push for.
Okay. All right, so that, phase two, that is a placeholder, so we don't forget what we agreed upon as the things that are our priorities for phase two. Once we get out, once we get this energy performance contract, still nailed down. Well, then the administration will come back and give us a proposal for what we think should be in phase two. If it's roofs, if it's, these are the priorities. All right, other concerns? Anybody have anything they want to bring up? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So I move we adjourn the meeting, I can't believe it. went to-
All in favor? Aye.
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 Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Good night.
I don't remember the motion.
You should get like. There. Okay, this is the one,